Hello, everyone, and welcome to another new episode of Tier Force Heroes. I'm Gooey. I'm here with Nico, and I forgot. Hollow? Is that Hollow? What's that correct? What's your name?
Corey.
Corey. That's not
That's
a very
Corey the Korok.
Oh, hi.
All right.
It's Corey.
Less cute Korok popping on the screen now.
Incredibly cute. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the cutest guy around.
The cutest guy around.
We're here. We're celebrating the 1 year anniversary of doing this show every month. It doesn't really feel like it. It feels like we've been doing this for about 2 months.
But think of all the memories we've had. You're gonna cut into memories, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm definitely gonna take the time to do that.
Yeah, this is a heavily edited Tier Force Heroes episode.
Nope, not gonna happen. Don't get any ideas.
I'll provide the music for while you play the memories for us.
Okay.
You know what we should have done? We should have just done like a...
Is this the dog? That's the sad dog song.
We should have just shown like what a TV sitcom does once it gets to season 6. It's like, oh, remember all those good times? And then the whole episode is just clips from other episodes.
Exactly. Oh, but then there
Just
was
clip
that
that
one
clip.
time. Remember when Billy went to scout camp?
All right. Well, as you can tell, this is gonna probably be a really long one. 'Cause
Probably.
we want to do something big for our year anniversary, and so we thought, let's rank just all the Zelda games,
All
at
the
least all the
games.
ones we've played.
Yes.
There's a caveat here. We tried to include remakes, spin-offs, like even down to the silliest ones. But there's just some that none of us has played. So I want to give a honorable mention to all the Tingle games, because they look great. Especially Rosie Rupee Land. I really want to play it someday, fill in that blind spot. But
Balloon Trip of Love. Want to play it?
I plan to play them at some point.
Me too.
I've watched some world record attempts and runs at it.
Here's to Tingle. Here's to Tingle.
Tingle.
To
But yeah, we don't want to
Tingle.
we don't want to speak out of turn, you know what I mean, about games we haven't played much. So anyway, with that being said, we should get going because it's gonna be a long one.
We got
So
this.
let's go. Totem time.
Totem time.
Totem time.
Amazing.
One of the best ones yet.
We're so good at toteming.
Been doing it for a whole year.
Yeah, I have got a year's worth of totem muscle built up.
Carrying you guys on my shoulders. Ugh.
Okay, so we got all the games, and we'll start filling them in up there. But here's a good look at what it looks like.
There's
now.
4 games that are not currently viewed on the screen, so there's 42 I think that we're doing.
Yeah, but we'll get through it quick, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like what's a good place to even start with this. Let's just do like Minish Cap. How about that? I don't even know why.
Let's just start with Minish Cap.
Cap.
Why not? Okay. Where's Minish Cap? Okay, I see it. It's right up.
This is gonna be hard, but
Da-da-da.
It is going to be hard.
Minish Cap.
it's hard.
What do you think?
This is like, this is a pretty good one for me. Like, I think it's like a pretty fun game. It's not my favorite one, but like, I see the appeal of it. But for me, I'll just start with placing it because we can't get into everything about the game, but I'm sure it'll come up naturally. But just based on my opinion alone, this is a very like good average Zelda game for me. C fits it because it's one that I don't hate it, I don't love it. What do you think?
So this is one. This is relatively high on my list of Zelda games. Actually, this is
Okay.
For me, this is floating right around A tier. Minish Cap just has an abundance of charm compared to almost all Zelda games for me. And I think it's also going to be interesting because we got to see what the full spectrum looks like, right? We got to see which ones are ending up low, which ones are ending up super high.
Yeah.
We can adjust. That's why I didn't know where to start. You know what I mean? I didn't want to like blow anything out of the water.
My suggestion is A tier, personally.
Oh, okay. Nico, where are you at with Minish?
Well, I was thinking B tier originally, which was right in between. And my
It's a
kind of
fair.
thinking for that is it's one of my favorite 2D Zeldas, definitely. Um, it's the one I played the most as a kid.
Mhm.
And I especially agree with Corey that it does have so much charm, and I I don't know, it's fun. I really
Yeah.
like playing Minish Cap, and I don't have it's one of the few Zelda games I don't feel like I have to commit to. I can just like start playing it and like have fun. Um Whereas other ones I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start a playthrough of this game, you know? Overall, I really enjoy it, but it's not my favorite. I've occasionally put it in my top five, um, but I don't do that anymore. So I
B
think
sounds good to me.
it's a B tier for me.
The
I,
B's fair
I
then.
I guess overall context, if we're giving it, like I didn't play it right away at the time. I ended up playing on an emulator.
Mhm.
Wasn't
Yeah.
really the ideal way to play it, and it just never ingrained itself in me. But I have started to appreciate it more over time. But I
Mhm.
think I kind of hit my limit where I'm like,
Oh, for sure.
I think it's C. I'm not someone who's like, I sort of agree with this, but not really. Where people are like, well, the average like no Zelda game is below uh, like average.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that,
The Zelda
but
scale.
yeah, I don't fully agree. I think there are some Zelda games that are just not great. It like video games at all.
Yeah.
Like they're not horrible, but they're not. But anyway, Minish Cap is one where I would say it's a pretty average Zelda game, but for like a Game Boy Advance game, I'm like, this is a pretty good game. So I
It's
can
got a
be
lot packed
doesn't
into a
upset
Game Boy
me.
Advance game, that's for sure.
Oh,
Does.
for sure.
Definitely.
All right,
Cool.
Corey.
Good start.
All right.
We're blood has been drawn.
I want to get some of the quirkier ones out of the way
We got a lot of
because
quirky ones.
well, the caveat was that like we need to have played them. There are several of these that I have not played, and I kind of just want to get them out of the way.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do Tetris Trackers.
Okay.
Okay. I'm the only
Because
one who's
isn't
played
that
this,
just
right?
like isn't that not even like an English release? Isn't that
It's
only in Japan or
Yes.
it was never
yeah.
released for the US, no.
Okay,
So
I haven't played it. I've seen it played. It looks fun, but I have no frame of reference.
this was when I was saying like, oh, I played this, I played this, I played this, and this is one that I was not starting to regret because I played it once. We had it at the marathon 1 year. I
Mhm.
think I played it, and it was a lot of fun. But honestly, I had no idea what was going on. It's like it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
this
I
big
mean,
mini game
It's
thing, and
just a
everyone's running
big mini
around and
game.
battling,
running around a
and
map, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
everything was in Japanese, so I didn't know what I was
It's got
doing.
voice
That
acting.
it does,
That's
yeah,
cool.
Tetra.
Kind of cool.
Um, it was a lot of fun to do, but it's kind of even hard to rank. So this is actually there's other like weird ones that I can actually give an opinion on, but I was sort of thinking with this one like maybe I can't even like fairly judge it, and I don't even want to say throw it an F, but
Well, so like because I haven't played it, a lot of times
huh,
this is kind of uncharted territory for us because most of the time we're ranking stuff that all of us have least experienced at least once. So I feel
mhm.
like this would be fitting for almost like a have not played or no opinion tier
Yeah,
list, but we don't have that. So
mhm.
my gut reaction is F.
I mean
Also,
we
it
could
doesn't
just
really seem like a very full game. So,
yeah, but I don't know if it's actually good or bad.
Did you
But
enjoy
we could
your
put it
time playing it at all?
yeah, let's put it an F for fun.
F is for fun.
F for fun.
But there are other ones that I want to make a case for not F, even though you haven't played them. If that's fair, I think I could
I
convince that it's
suppose.
like okay,
I could be
okay,
convinced.
okay. What do you think, Nico? What should we do? I see you're scanning. Do you see those
There's
eyebrows scanning?
there's a lot.
Mm.
I want to start with something pretty tame. And I mean, we talked about it in our mailbag. I'm gonna do Cadence of Hyrule. Um,
Oh, I love
I'm
this game.
I'm not a fan of rhythm games personally, like almost at all. The only rhythm game I've ever enjoyed is Patapon on the PSP. um, but there was so much charm to this game. I can play it out of rhythm mode, where you can just like everything still moves the same way, but you just don't have to do it on the beat. Which made the game a lot more accessible for me because I just couldn't think like that. And overall, I think this game is super freaking cool, and the characters are awesome. The music is incredible. And the puzzle solving is fun because it's like randomized dungeons, which is not something that we've had in Zelda games. So it's fun to see things that are just totally randomized and actually pretty difficult. I would probably also I'd probably put it in B tier with Minish Cap personally, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say.
I think
I love it.
that's
Yeah.
yeah.
I
You like
love it
good.
so much. I love it so much that we did a definitive ranking for it, and I was kind of like seeing some of the flaws, like replaying it and like listening to like Mas's criticism of it, where I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying, but every time I play it, I get so absorbed in it
Mhm.
that it like none of those matter. I would love to see a better version of it, but I love this game. I find it addictive.
Really?
Yeah, there was like played at the marathon co-op, and then there was a day after the 2020 marathon actually where we were hanging out, and McKenna and I threw it on. McKenna had never like completed it, and we beat the whole game like just casually. It wasn't even part of the marathon, just
Wow.
in one day playing it. I love this game. I love going around the world and uncovering the map and stuff like that. I definitely think it has its flaws, but for me personally, it's so fun, and I love how much of a throwback it is at a lot of times too. And what we said in our last mailbag was, I love that it's like just give it your spin, but it still to me feels like The Legend of Zelda. So for me, it's A tier, just because I think it's a great game.
Okay.
Certainly, it's not a traditional Zelda game.
No.
And there's certain people who have gripes with that, like, well, it's not a traditional Zelda game, so it should be its own grading. For me, that doesn't matter. I think it's a great game, so I would personally put it in A.
All right. Corey.
This is another one. I have played this at least. I played the demo and I've played it a couple times in passing, and every time I played it, I've been like, this is really cool. I could see myself really liking this. I just haven't gotten the full game yet. I've definitely seen some of it. The music is dope. Kakariko Village is awesome. The
so
remixes
good.
are awesome.
The
I
drums
love
in that one.
Oh
yeah. Yep.
It's just like a chill in the pocket.
I think I would really, really like it if I had played the whole thing. I haven't. And I also tend to be somewhat, I lean more towards like the Zelda purist side of things, where like to me that the what makes a Zelda game, that's what I love in video games. And I don't know how much of that is really in Cadence of Hyrule because I haven't seen the full thing, but I do appreciate that if this was like the first attempt at letting another studio or an indie studio work on the Zelda IP, this is absolutely an awesome first step. I think I would probably agree with Nico. I think I would be cool putting it in B tier with Minish Cap.
Sounds good. I know I'm a little hotter on it than
I think
most people are.
I
but
honestly
I can't get tired of
that's
it.
pretty dang high for a spinoff.
Goo, I didn't
Yes.
realize you had such strong like memories with this game. We should play it.
We should, and we will.
I don't know if everybody knows, Gooey and I live together. He's literally
We're
like on the other side of this wall.
through the wall.
If I were to knock on that wall, it'd freak him out.
We're gonna play some Cadence.
I'm across the country.
Yeah.
Sucker.
I'm on the other side of several walls.
Yeah. So yeah, he's like through this wall, but just like really far.
A few hundred miles east.
Cool. Okay.
All right.
I'm excited. Cool.
Since you mentioned it earlier, I want to get out the ones that I know that only I've really played, and it's been very brief.
Oh, sure.
But I do have a case that they're not awful, and that's the Game Watch and the Game and Watch.
Yes.
So the Game Watch is like a little tiny watch toy that you could get back in like, I don't know, the 80s or something. It's like the LCD type screens like that Game and Watch would have, or those little Tiger electronics. I had like a Power Rangers one when I was a kid that was awesome. And it's neat for what it is. It's like, if we're just talking about like what it's going for, I think it does okay. It kind of stinks. It's like a little tiny game, and it's like, it's kind of weird. The watch itself is like, you get like a item that lets you beat this enemy, that lets you beat this enemy, and it's a little basic, but it's like a cute collectible. But it's not like an amazing game by any means. So I would argue to put this in D tier,
Okay.
because it's not like, this is not like a game you're gonna be like playing forever. But like,
It's a
in terms of
novelty
like
game.
it's a nice novelty, yeah.
I would
And then
highly suggest YouTubing the Zelda Watch, because I knew very little about it. I knew that it existed, but when I was making this, I was curious, so I Googled it.
It's cute.
It's cute. It's cool. Yeah.
And then, I don't know. I guess I was thinking the Game and Watch like a step higher, but maybe that's even pushing it too far. Because I was sort of thinking for a like, I've only played a few Game and Watch games, and this one's on like one of the collections they re-released on a few different consoles. But it's not the best, but it's surprisingly pretty involved. Like, you're like traveling up levels, fighting Stalfos and like, I think Aquamentus or dragons or something like that, and you get like the Water of Life, and there's a little bit of strategy, and it's definitely better than the Game Watch. I don't know if it's, I would say, might argue that it's like a pretty solid game, but I don't know if I would put it another tier above. But I might, depending on what we put in C.
So
Maybe
think
D.
for
Maybe
now, putting them both in D tier kind of is fitting. Something
they're not
might
garbage.
bump 'em.
They're pretty good, but it's obviously like a little limited. And
And
I would say there's better Game and Watch games out there.
I mean, also, like you said, like, it is the Zelda scale. Everything is bumped up like a little bit. Like, none of these games are absolute garbage, but that doesn't mean that just because it has a Zelda name doesn't mean it's a good game, you know? So
Yeah. These
I
are
should
both
check these
neat
out. I like
novelties.
Game and Watch style games.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys have the new Zelda Game and Watch that they released? For the anniversary?
Yeah, I've played on one. It's really fun. And that does have
It's very
a
cute.
remake of Vermin, which is not a Zelda game, but they reskinned it with Link.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that's a better
That's cool.
example of what I like of the Game and Watch games, because Vermin's like a really
It's very cool.
simplistic game where you're just like whacking some vermin on the head, I believe. And that's kind of the Game and
vermin.
Watches that I think succeed, like the ones that are like really easy to understand, whereas like the Zelda Game and Watch is like, you got the water. It's not that complicated,
Yeah.
but it's a little trickier, and you're in like, for me, playing it that long is not very, very fun. But I want to give it a shout out.
Yeah. This is dead, otherwise I'd show you, but one thing I really like about this Game and Watch is when you turn it on, this little Triforce that you can barely see actually lights up on the back. I think that's a really
That
super
thing is
cute.
awesome. We didn't put it on here because it doesn't really. The
not
vermin
a-
is the only original thing,
Yeah.
but that is an awesome piece. That is a great piece.
And the little time, like the clock was really cute as well, actually.
It does have a playable clock. I think we should have
Yeah.
put that on the list. Maybe we should put this on the list. It's S tier. I think it's
S tier.
awesome.
There we go. Playable clock, S tier.
It's got
And it's
3
got awesome
games.
Zelda games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Corey. Let's get to the good stuff.
Meat and
Or
potatoes.
pick
the
whatever
good
you
stuff?
want. But, well, not,
Let's
you know what I mean.
Well, you know what? I actually do. Let's do a little bit of a heavy hitter right now because we've got a lot to go. I think it'd be good to space it out so that we're not doing a bunch of stuff no one's played. Let's do, and I would like to do them together.
All together. Yes.
Yes,
Let's
I
get
think
them all on the
that's-
board.
I want to do Twilight Princess and Twilight Princess HD.
So that's
Okay,
Twilight Princess
where's
on the
GameCube. This is I think the hardest one.
on the Wii.
Going to be the hardest fight.
and
the whole one.
Oh, we separated GameCube and Wii.
We did.
We decided to at the final hour.
Interesting.
And then
Well, first,
what?
What do we think is? Do we want to start with what's the best version, or do we want to start? I think we should start with the best version, right? Of the three.
I mean, I would say HD. I think that's usually the answer for me.
There we go.
For me, it's HD, and then the GameCube and then the Wii, because I always played like the GameCube one was always it to me, and the Wii one's controls never really captivated me. It seems kind of fun, but I never really played much of it.
I think that one honestly might just depend on which one you played first. Because I got the Wii version first, and then I hadn't played the GameCube version.
Uh-huh.
So
All right, well, let's place the Wii U one, and then we'll work from there. How about that?
I think it's a good idea.
So I kind of wanted to bring this up because I know we're going to be a little bit split on this. I'm high
Yes.
on Twilight Princess. This is one of the games that I remember being super fond of growing up. I have very fond memories of it myself, but I also have very fond memories of it with my brother and with my friends. And that's the only time ever that I've had experiences with so many people with one Legend of Zelda game, especially like in my life growing up. And this is a game that it definitely has its flaws for sure. We've talked about some. There's plenty that people can nitpick about this game, but it just always feels so epic and grand to me. And I think it has a lot going for it personally. Like it immerses me every time I'm in a playthrough. And there's plenty of issues, but personally I think I would put it in A tier because it tends to float right around like the bottom end of my top 5, right in that maybe plus or minus 1 or 2 spots, but right in that area.
Okay. Nico, go ahead. Sorry.
I love to bag on Twilight Princess. I really do. But, you know,
People do.
we tend to criticize the things we love extra harsh, right? And I think that's a big thing in the Zelda community is we will nitpick our favorite games to shreds. And people think, "Why do you hate this game?" And you're like, "I love this game. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Um, Twilight Princess is definitely that for me. I will do everything I can to find all the tiny little details that I wish were better because I think I deserve a perfect game, you know? Twilight Princess is, in my opinion, an S tier game. I don't normally put it in my
Wow.
top 5, but I think it is an S tier game.
Nice.
Because it brought so many people into the Zelda community. Especially after Wind Waker, a lot of people were like, "I don't want to play that children's game."
That's why I don't like it. Like now, that's not at the time. That's not why I don't like it, but
Uh-huh.
that's now why I don't like it because Wind Waker is not even one of my favorite games, but my appreciation for it has grown and grown. And Twilight Princess to me feels like a step back, and Wind Waker
Okay.
feels like I feel like we could have gotten to Breath of the Wild way sooner if they didn't go, oh, we got to make one like just like Ocarina of
They
Time again. 'Cause
overcorrected a little bit.
they
That was
overcorrected.
Miyamoto. That was Miyamoto's Zelda game.
Everything's Miyamoto.
Miyamoto.
I as much as
There's
I
some
think that Twilight Princess HD is definitely my favorite version. I think it's an S tier game. However, I would agree putting it in A tier, based on other Zelda games, if that makes sense.
Well, I think
I think
Goo
it's-
probably wants to put it lower.
I I have fond memories of it. I've detailed this over and over. At the time when I was like 15 or whatever, this was the perfect game. Because it did feel like, oh, Ocarina of Time is back. And then as time has gone on, it hasn't had that same staying power. Like whenever I revisit, I'm like, I don't like it as much. You know, like I appreciate it less somehow. That being said, I mean, I still really like the game. I play it every year at the marathon, and then sometimes outside of that for other stuff. And if it was an awful game, I wouldn't be able to do that. There's a lot I like about it.
Mhm.
You know, and I go at the marathon and I have the worst time. So I sit there for 11 hours and I play it. And at the end, sometimes I'm like, oh boy, that was exhausting. But honestly, I think it's great. I think it's fun when I do that. I love doing it. And that's also not how you should play the game. But I've detailed kind of my things with it. I was gonna say my personal would be C. Like I think it's like Minish Cap. It's one that this is one that I had these feelings about, but as time I've just sort of been like, it's okay.
Sure.
It's not awful, but I don't love it like everyone else does. And I do wish I felt like Wind Waker was trying something different, but it had its flaws, but I appreciate that it was ambitious, and I just don't think Twilight Princess is a very ambitious game.
I would agree with
I don't
that.
I actually was just gonna say kind of the opposite of that, the opposite sentiment, which is that I think Twilight Princess has plenty of flaws. It has plenty of things that you can point at. I don't think you can point at something and say that they were being lazy or that they were being uninspired. I think a lot of the flaws from that game are direct results of them trying to go for something. The pacing has to do with them trying super hard to make the world feel bigger and feel more epic. And a lot of times that ends up feeling like padding, but I think I don't think you could look at that and say, yeah, that's just they were being lazy about that. And a lot of people like to criticize stuff like the art style, things like that. And regardless of how you feel about that, and some people, a term that has been floated around, not so much anymore, but especially that used to be floated around a lot with Twilight Princess, is that it's like an Ocarina of Time clone. And I really feel that what they were trying to go for, just in tone and in the theme, it could not be more different. I feel like Twilight Princess easily has its own super clear-cut identity, very far apart from any other Zelda game. And I think that's 100% intentional on the developer's point. I don't think they stumbled onto that, you know?
Mm-mm.
Mm.
No, I would agree. I think Twilight Princess has a very clear identity. Um, I just I see a lot of inspirations from Ocarina of Time for sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Maybe
it's
it's
so
not
different.
like we want to go exactly back to Ocarina of Time, but I feel like it's like I don't know, it feels just more like I don't know, it feels safer to me. And I feel like in terms of like the game play, it doesn't
Mhm.
add much that's new other than this wolf element that I think is really shallow.
I mean, you can only be the first 3D
Interesting.
Zelda one time. You know,
Mm.
they couldn't just be like, "Oh, this is the first time we're making a 3D Zelda game as Twilight Princess this time." No, that's not how it works. But
I actually think in there I sort of agree with Corey on as time goes on, I think I took the like I've come to sort of appreciate what they're going for with the story and the tone of it. I kind of appreciate that, but just in terms of, I feel like the game has so much of, okay, it has too many hats. It's wearing too, it's like,
okay,
we talk all the time about how many times you go up to the Forest Temple, and it's because we put this in the game, we put this in the game, we put this in the game, and it all feels like half baked. So maybe it's not uninspired, but it feels like they had a lot of ideas, but each of those ideas don't feel fleshed out to me.
sure,
Like
yeah.
I never click with like
Okay.
the wolf stuff. It's the
Yeah.
same gameplay the whole game to me. Like the mechanics of the wolf, and it doesn't ever get interesting to me. Um but I don't know. Basically, I was saying C because I think it's fine. I don't think it's an awful game, but I really like the game, all things considered. So maybe A is right. If you were saying A, Nico's
I was
S.
saying A. Nico was saying S.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm
So
okay
A
with
is.
low A is fine for me.
So this is HD that we're throwing an A.
Do we feel like the other ones are different? I mean,
I mean,
I
I
will
don't, but
say, I think GameCube deserves to be on the same level as HD. I do not know if the Wii does.
the HD adds in like hero mode and stuff like that. I don't know if that puts it up at all. I don't know. I don't really care for these ones. Like if it's
yeah,
different,
they, I that was
maybe a
actually something
tier
about
below.
that was something about Twilight Princess HD actually that I kind of was like, this feels like not very different from the original game.
Mhm.
Like even
Yeah.
more so than any of the other
Yeah.
Just like
remakes
looks
or remasters
nicer.
we'd gotten.
It
Yeah.
feels like
Let's-
the same game I played the way I thought it was when I first played Twilight Princess, you know?
Okay, we can put it there then. If we put them all on the same tier, all the remakes, I don't know if there's any point to splitting them up, but let's just put it there, I guess. Yeah, sure. It's
Sure.
like if it's better, it's marginally, you know.
Yeah.
It's clearly better, I think, but you
Yeah.
know, not in any ways that are like earth shattering.
Sure.
I mean the biggest thing for me is just the gamepad functionality. I think that's just a no-brainer for
Yeah.
Zelda because you could use it for mini maps, you could use it for the menu. Like I just love that. But even so, it feels like the same game to me.
That makes sense.
Okay,
I get that.
yeah. All right, Nico. What do we put on the board?
Let's chat about our namesake. A little Triforce
Oh.
Heroes.
Yes, and we've been playing it.
We have. It's been a little
We were
bit.
playing it for a video that we haven't made yet, at
Mhm.
least at the time of this recording. And what's funny is we're going to talk about it now, and I talked about it over on the Zelda cast pretty
Mhm.
extensively. So, spoilers for my eventual ranking of this, but this is honestly a pretty fun game.
It's a good time.
we were having a blast playing it.
The number one downfall of this game is you have to have 3 people in order to have a good time. If you do
Sure,
not,
yeah.
and you want to play solo, this game sucks.
Yeah, not good
It's
solo.
dreadful.
Solo, it's F tier,
100% yes.
but I don't know if that's fair to judge the game
It's not.
based on that. I would just
That's
say
not
don't
how
play
it's
that
meant
mode.
to be played. Yeah.
It is a flaw
Yeah, I
of the
mean
game, though.
that's why they
I
had
think,
the matchmaking capabilities. Like if they released it without that, this might be a different conversation. But
Yeah, and no one would play it.
I think they should have come up with something better for the single player. Like
Yeah.
even if it was just a different mode, like a mini, 6-hour quest that's single player, like
Yeah.
one link or something. You know what I mean? And then but the real game is this. Like even present the single player thing as a side
Yeah.
quest. But anyway, I think outside of that, it's really fun. Like
It is.
it's the most clever use, I think, of all the multiplayer mechanics compared to all
Yeah.
the multiplayer
yeah,
Zelda games. And
This
so I don't
is
know.
I was just gonna say this is my favorite multiplayer Zelda game. This is my favorite multiplayer mainline Zelda game.
Mhm.
I think there are some aspects of this game that are like out of the park. Like the soundtrack is dope.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
the atmosphere of the whole game, it's super silly, but I actually really like that.
I do too.
And I also think that especially if you have 2 people that are into what you're doing, there is some fantastic level design. There's some fantastic cooperative puzzles in this game that made me like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
I agree.
like brain burst. That being said, I think just the fact that it is mainly a multiplayer game and that it's a level based Zelda game, those are just things that I don't prefer as much in gaming, especially compared to
100%.
the rest of the games in this list. So for me, I'm looking at that empty spot right there in C tier.
That's what I was thinking.
I was actually gonna say B. Like I think
Okay.
it's more than just like, it's okay. It's like with the 3 people, it's like this is pretty fun. But maybe the fact
Yeah.
that like the single player would weighs
I'll-
it down even more.
I'll say this.
I would be okay with B actually.
I'll say
Either
this.
one.
I think the 3-player works really well if you're all in the same room. Almost any other time it's
Yeah.
not
No,
fun.
we did play a few levels where we
I
could
have had
only
online
communicate with the emojis, and it was pretty hilarious.
It was.
Some of the flaws of this game, I think, add to it a little bit. Like, it's so unnecessary that they tell you so much information
Oh my
flying across the
God.
screen.
Yeah.
But as I was playing it, I was
Wild.
like, it was so funny to me that it heightened the experience in a way. And like you can click on someone's name and it's like Gooey is interested in Nico or whatever.
Yeah.
Um
I love the little Link emoticons. There's a reason that we use those as our emojis in the Zelda Dungeon Discord
too good.
server because
They're
they're so
so
cute
good.
and they're so expressive.
They are.
I'm also
Well-
thinking ahead, and I think that it's definitely a tier above a certain other multiplayer game, but I don't think that other multiplayer game is a D tier game.
I'm going to agree with you because
Let's
I
put
know
in
what
B
you're
for
talking
now.
about, and I think B is solid in that case.
Some people are gonna be mad that Minish Cap is with these like multiplayer and spin-off games, but that's how it is.
What's
I
wrong
wish
with
I had
that?
higher, but
If we're back to me, right?
Yep.
We're good.
yeah.
All right, I'm thinking CDI roundup. Let's
baby.
ring the
boy.
CDI bell.
do it.
Ding, 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 ding.
I think it'd be
okay,
more of a
here's how-
siren.
Here's how I want to start it. Zelda's Adventure. Well, it has a lot of things that are really fun and interesting, but the act of actually playing it is garbage. Like,
It's not a functioning game.
it sucks.
Barely.
Like just the time it takes going screen to screen alone, F tier, and
It's like
I
a
don't even
second
have
and a half.
It's literally 6 seconds. It's like 5.5 seconds to transition from one screen to another screen.
Yes,
That's insane.
it's hot garbage. So I do like some of the cutscenes and like weird voice acting is fun, but it's kind of fun to watch someone struggle with it, but it's not fun to ever engage with.
So I've only ever
yeah.
played about 10 minutes of this game hunched over the back of Mossy's couch at the marathon after a couple beers. So all I can say is I didn't enjoy it. So
Now I want to
It's gotta
talk
be F.
about the best one, I think, which is Wand of Gamelon.
okay, that's the green one, right? No, that's Faces
No,
of Evil.
no,
No,
that's
this
Faces
is
of
this
Evil.
is Wand of Gamelon.
These two are pretty similar. Moss has a whole spiel about how one's definitely better than the other with the Corey, getting the fireballs and the ice
Yeah,
balls,
you
or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they're
kinda
pretty
fun, though.
similar otherwise, but I actually think Wand of Gamelon and Faces of Evil are really fun, and they're really fun to play with your friends. Like you and I have played it together, Corey, and it's a riot. And this is one where okay, so the badness of Zelda's Adventure makes it unplayable. I'm just talking about pure gameplay mechanics. The kind of wonky gameplay of this game makes it so fun to play with your friends. It feels like
Yeah.
you know how they make these games now where it has like weird wonky physics and you like fight people. There was that like brawl game and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and it's kind of
Yeah.
it's kind of intended to like feel goofy. That's how it feels like when me and you are playing together and we're trading off, and like you're trying to jump over a gap and the jump is too hard
Yeah.
and you've messed it
That's
up.
what, that's what we were saying is that like the main antagonist of the CDI games is the jumping mechanic.
Jumping.
Yeah. Now, granted, it's less fun to play by yourself, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I
haven't
think
done that.
It's kind
For
of
me-
become a favorite at the marathons. Both of these
it's
games.
so fun. We all love it.
Everyone gathers
I've
on the couch
only-
and watches everybody play. They're so funny.
I've only played Faces of Evil, but I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed every second of it. There wasn't
Yeah.
one point where I was like, I wish I wasn't playing this game.
Honestly, you and Lulu playing Faces of Evil is iconic.
It was a riot.
Yeah, so this is one that's like it's impossible for me to rank compared to the other ones. In fact, our definitive ranking one, I just didn't have an answer because for me personally, it's like the experience of playing it at the marathon was S tier, but obviously it can't
Yeah.
go there.
It's not an S tier game,
No.
That's why I think Wand of
Yeah.
Gamelon, that C tier, I think just the experience of playing it alone. I think you can argue that it's objectively not a C tier game or something, but I'm just
I
more
say
talking
you put them
about.
both there.
Okay, that's fine with me.
I'm 100%
We-
for this.
We can adjust if something else happens.
Also,
but
don't they hold the
Well-
wand of Gamelon like this?
it's like a cute little wand. Yeah.
They're like,
There are so many funny and fun and iconic things about these games, and this is something that like bizarrely clicked for me when we were playing. Is that like I think honestly, there's a good game buried in there. The only
That's true
thing that
too.
I
Yeah.
think, the only thing that I think is not good is like mechanics related stuff.
Yeah. It's
And
on the
even
Philips
then,
CDI.
that's mitigated by having fun with your friends.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, the
So
I think
soundtracks.
teachers-
The soundtracks are so
Oh
good.
my god,
I love the
Slaps.
music.
I'm becoming
Tony
a
Trippy.
pure Tony Trippy. I've become a purist for these games though, and people like there was that remake that made it a little bit better, like a fan remake, and I'm like, no, you gotta play the garbage version. That's the only way to play.
Yeah.
You gotta play at a team with 4 people and take turns, but that's the way to do it.
Spread out the agony a little bit.
Yeah. By yourself it's probably D tier, but all right, CDI roundup complete.
That was good. I'm glad we all agreed because this is exactly where I wanted them.
Yes. Also, the cutscenes, awesome. We all
Yes.
know that.
Oh yeah.
Lucky shot.
Oh my goodness.
The best cutscenes in the series, I think.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. So could we scroll down a little bit so I can see what we
Yes,
got on,
yes,
on
yes.
this list here?
So I forget that you guys
Let's take
can't
a
see
look-see.
it, but I can.
Okay. Let's do another roundup of games that I have played, but I haven't played all of these versions. So let's do the Hyrule Warriors ones.
Yes. So we've got
Not Age of Calamity, just Hyrule Warriors, then the
Legends
3DS one, and then the
and
definitive one.
There we go.
Yeah.
Clearly, the definitive, I think, has got to be the best one because
It
it
is.
just collects everything.
Yeah.
Then, the 3DS one doesn't play as well as the others, so it has a couple things right that the original doesn't have. But as a game, I don't think it's as
so
good.
the biggest difference between Hyrule Warriors and Hyrule Warriors Legends was the characters. It was like different
Mhm.
stories that they were telling.
They added Wind Waker characters and stuff, right?
Yeah, which was really fun, but it just played so terribly because you were on the DS. Like that, you can't play a Dynasty Warriors game on a 3DS. I'm sorry, it cannot handle that.
Well, let me ask because you've played it a fair amount, right?
I've played all three.
Where have you
I
played?
love these games. Yeah.
Okay. Where would you put the 3DS one? I'm thinking how low do we go?
D.
Because okay,
I genuinely didn't like
that's fine.
this as a game on its own. Definitive Edition has it all, and you don't have to play it on the 3DS.
So I say before we even get there, we can just put the one in D.
That's
because
fine
I
with
haven't
me.
even played that one.
It's fine with
But
me.
I assume
I
that it's
haven't
not
played
that
it
great.
either.
I assume it's kind of bad.
It's bad.
Now, Definitive Edition, I don't know. I don't love them. I think they're fun little kind of fanficky games or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
Do
fun.
why don't we establish too? Like, do you want to separate Definitive Edition and the original, or is it fair enough to say they play the same? This one just has more stuff.
It's
Does
the
that
thing is,
constitute?
Definitive Edition has all of Legends in it as well. It's literally 2 full games in one. So Hyrule Warriors is half the game of Definitive Edition while also running on a worse system.
Okay.
So you would put it in different tiers?
Personally, I would, yeah.
Because
Okay.
I don't think I would go for me as high. I've played Definitive Edition. I didn't really get through much of it because just like really the style of gameplay doesn't really engage me. But I do. I played a little bit co-op with like my brother, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I think the story's kind of fun, even if it's a little silly. But I like that about it. But like for me, like just that it's not. For me, it's like a C game. It's like I don't really love it.
Well, so yeah, I might as well get my suggestion in there too, because I didn't play the 3DS one or Definitive Edition, but I kind of have a similar thing where like that style of gameplay, like I think it's fun, and while I'm doing it, I'm like, yeah, this is fun enough. This is a fun enough game. But I had the weirdest experience where like I got the original game, I played through it, I had fun while I was playing through it, and then once I finished it, I put it down and it just left a sour taste in my mouth. I was like, that was fun, but like I kind of regret buying it because I don't think I'm gonna play it again. I didn't get anything from it. I didn't get any cool Zelda stuff I like from it. And it just kind of felt, unfortunately, it felt a little bit like a waste of time to me.
Hmm.
And like, obviously, there are some people that are really into that style of gameplay, and that's fine, that's cool. Just didn't do much for me. So I think I was suggesting maybe putting them all in D for me. But if not that, then I think C is fine for Definitive Edition and the original, because I'll take your word for it that the 3DS one just doesn't play as good.
I would agree to put Definitive Edition in C, because based on other Zelda games, definitely it's not.
But you
Super
said
high
you
up.
loved it, right?
I do. I love all of these games.
Okay.
To be honest, I mean, there's a couple in here I'm like, okay, whatever. They're
Okay, I was just trying to be like diplomatic because I think if you really like it, I want the list to represent, your
I
feelings
do.
too.
It should.
I think there's a better Hyrule Warriors game. This one, however,
Okay.
I watched the completionist make a video on the definitive edition, and he put thousands of hours into this game to have that
Yeah,
sour taste in his mouth.
Doesn't Locke have an insane amount of
Oh,
hours on this too?
I'm sure.
Didn't Locke and Kevin have a world record for this actually?
Yeah, they did at the marathon.
Like the co-op or
last
something?
year, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I will say it's a really fun game. I have never been a fan of this style of gameplay before, but then you slap Zelda on it, and I was like, I want to play it, and I played hundreds of hours of Definitive Edition. Is it my favorite Zelda game? No. Is it my favorite style of game? No. But I liked it. This is a me thing. I'm gonna put it above the CDI games in the C tier. Not that matters, because we
No,
don't do
that's
that.
fine.
But in my head,
We
it
can
does.
make
I don't
it
agree with
matter
that.
when
I'm
it
just gonna
counts.
ignore it.
I'm also
Yeah.
going to put original down with Legends.
Do you think that original though is really not that good compared to it? Like I get that they have all these enhancements, but when you play that one, does it feel like, oh, I wish it was better,
Yeah,
Now
I thought it was
that
just the same game but more.
Now that I've played Definitive Edition, I have zero purpose to play either of those games. There's
yeah, I just
literally
mean
no
at the
need.
time. Yeah. Okay.
And even then, like,
I'll take your word for
had
it.
Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U. I still do, but it's just like I didn't play it that much. Then Definitive Edition came out, and I played it all the time.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds
good.
That was
All right,
yours,
let's keep
Corey.
My
right?
turn.
That was me, yeah.
I think it's my turn.
Oh,
Okay, I'm gonna
Lots of good-
grab.
lots of good stuff at play here.
You know what? I'm gonna grab the Oracle games.
Okay.
Oracles.
Let's
Let's
Doing them together.
These are distinct games.
They're-
Come on.
They
No, we
are.
can do it. It's fine. It's fine. I won't be mad. But I do think they don't go on the same tier.
I agree.
I agree.
Ages is better.
Yes.
Okay.
I concur.
Yes. I think
It's a
no matter
pretty
where we put them, Ages is going to be one tier above Seasons.
Ages is a pretty sweet game, I think. I don't know. I mean, we just got through playing them together, Corey and I, for the
Mhm.
dungeon ranking, and I think both. I mean, both have a pretty fun set of dungeons. Like,
Yeah, they both
yeah,
do have
I don't
good
know.
dungeons.
They're not my favorite games, but it's my favorite type of gameplay distilled down to like, it's like that last go at that kind of classic style, kind of the end of an era. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. Ages, I think, is an A tier game. It's just a great Zelda game. It's not the best one ever made, but it has a unique world. I like navigating the time travel mechanic as you go throughout the game. I think that's S tier. I think a lot of the dungeons are close to S tier. I don't know. It's a great game. It's a great game.
I would agree. I think I played it last year, practicing for the marathon, which we don't want to talk about how that went. But I will say this game is not easy. This is like a genuinely
No,
hard.
it's pretty
These are
hard.
genuinely hard Zelda games. And so when I tell people like,
Not only
hey,
hard, like the puzzles are hard, but the combat's hard.
yeah, everything about it's
Mhm.
difficult, and it's not because of the system. People are like, oh yeah, because it's you're playing it
Yeah,
on.
no.
And I'm like, no, like it's a well built game. It is a very well
No,
built
yeah.
game.
It's
This is some of the
fair.
most
It's fair
crisp,
but tough.
quick combat we
Yeah,
have.
The combat feels so good.
I would agree. I think Ages 100% belongs in A tier.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me,
I
it's like step below the greatest game, like it's approaching that territory, but it's not quite my favorite.
I would have put it in B, but I'm cool with that if you guys feel that strongly about it. I think something that both of the Oracle games do suffer with in my mind is the in between dungeon stuff. I think the dungeons are where both of these games shine. And then
Mhm.
Oracle of Ages, just to clarify why I think it's definitely at least a tier above Oracle of Seasons, is that Oracle of Seasons, the tone is weird and the story is basically non-existent, and those are cool details that I think Ages really nails. There's a very diverse, super interesting cast of characters. There's
Yeah,
awesome dialogue, there's awesome
There's
story
development.
moments, cool cutscenes, though I think the world feels a lot more fleshed out than Holodrome does. Um, but I think, and it's not even there are just some sections in both of these games where it feels like I'm completing a chore in order to get to the next dungeon. Ages
Mhm.
definitely has some pretty long streaks
Sure.
where it's like you need to find your way up here and doing this is a problem that I have with Skyward Sword sometimes too, where it's like you have the next objective you need to get to, but to even get there and start doing that, it's a whole ordeal in terms of like
Mm.
Yeah.
puzzles and finding your way there and talking to this person, getting this item, doing this thing. That's not inherently a bad thing. I think it just sometimes feels it makes me feel burnout a lot quicker when I play these games compared to some other games.
You made the comparison to like how I said about Twilight Princess in like our dungeon dive video, where it was like, to get to the next thing, it's like they give you an objective that's kind of a fun little challenge, but then sometimes, not all the time, sometimes then it's like, but here's another thing you got to do, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
here's a different thing.
I think I've had my fill,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I think it's a lot better in Ages. Like I think a lot of it, and in fact, it just in the grand scheme of things, these are pretty short sequences, and I think a lot of the puzzles they give you are fun and clever, but maybe sometimes it's a little much. But Seasons, I don't get
Mhm.
that same feeling. Like, especially, really don't
No.
like going down to the
Subrosia.
under Subrosia. I don't like
Subrosia
Subrosia.
sucks, man. I'm
In
sorry.
Ages, it feels like one big world,
Yeah.
like interconnected world that you affect. Whereas, like, there's a little bit of that where like something happens in Subrosia, something sinks into Subrosia, but overall, like, it just feels like a weird, like, if to me feels a little bit like the
Oh my
Twilight
god.
Realm, where it's a little bit
There's
like,
a there's one specific, it's in between like either the third and fourth dungeon or the fourth and fifth dungeon where like you have to go you find a new portal that brings you to Subrosia, and the entire thing you do before you can go back and keep looking for the rest of the dungeon, two of the guys steal your Rock's Feather, and you just need to take all the time to go
Oh.
chase them, do one of those little stealth sections, go all the way until you can just get your feather back, and then it's like, okay, you have your feather back, so now continue what you were doing. It's like, why
yeah.
did you do this to me? There's no point.
It almost
Seasons though.
feels like they were like making Oracle of Ages and they're like, we have a lot of ideas. Let's put the bad ones in another game and we'll make them like mirror games of each other.
Mm, yeah, maybe. Yeah, because Seasons does that. It has some of the elements of like it's a remake of, or like where they
Yeah.
were gonna make a remake of the original Legend of Zelda. So there's a lot of just like some stuff in there that's just like, yeah, it's Aquament this or
Yeah.
whatever, which I kind of like actually. But I also think like I like how the time travel mechanic develops throughout the game, and I think the Seasons eventually gets there too, but like it doesn't connect for me
Takes a
as
long
much. I think
time.
that
Yeah.
yeah, I think the time travel puzzles are like immediately, they're not immediately like mind blowing, but you feel
They're
yourself like,
better
oh,
from the
this is
get-go,
cool.
yeah.
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 So A tier, and then
I-
what? It's seasons. I don't know.
You know, like I don't think it's the same tier game as
No.
Minish Cap for me, but also C feels a little mean. I don't know. I'm okay with either. Whatever you guys want to do.
High C.
I loved High C as a kid.
It's a great drink.
I think it's definitely misleading to say it's the same as the CDI games, but you know what? I'm fine
We
with
just talked about how much we love the CDI games. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So
I definitely like.
how's that feel?
But you have them. Is it reversed? No.
No,
Yeah,
Ages,
no, he's got the Harp of Ages.
Ages is blue and
Yeah, there we go.
Oh
Seasons
my
is red.
gosh! See, I confused them there. Is that fine or should it be in B? Low B.
Low B.
I don't
Never
know.
had
Let's
it.
just-
Did they have that at
Let's
McDonald's
do low B.
when I was a kid? I
Let's
don't
keep it
remember.
there. If it gets too top loaded, because it might, we might have to.
Yeah.
Oh,
readjust.
is this gonna
We'll-
get
yeah, we'll
top
see.
loaded? Of course, this tier list is gonna be top loaded. What are you talking about?
All right.
All
let's
the rest
do.
Fs.
It's me, right?
Yes.
Let's do Twilight Princess spin-off roundup.
Okay,
And
we got two of
There's
them.
two. Link's crossbow training, pretty fun, honestly. I got that back
Yeah.
on the Wii,
Yeah.
and I had more fun playing that on Wii. I guess I didn't have Twilight Princess on Wii, but to me, that's the first Zelda game I played on Wii, really. And it's a fun. It's not great by any means. Like, it definitely could be better, but it's sort of like it was just a pack in for that zapper, really.
Yeah.
Which was also cool.
Yeah.
Which they used in
so
like
I don't know.
multiple games. I don't know how many games they actually use that zapper in, but
I think I'd put it in C for like it's just a pretty fun time. Low C, maybe.
I think that's fair.
I think people
Do
hate
we
on
even
the
have?
people hate on the game. I think it's fun, but C is solid.
It's just
We
a
talked
fun
about
little
this-
side thing. Yeah.
We talked about this in one of the last mailbag videos, but like Link's crossbow training is the butt of a lot of jokes, but like not rightfully so, because it's actually a fun game.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
a
just
super
silly.
fleshed
The
out
concept
game.
is so silly.
It's just a point
Yeah.
and shoot shooter. That's all it is. It's an arcade
Yeah.
game on the Wii.
I will
But
say
for one of those, pretty dang good.
Yeah.
I think you could have done certain things better.
Oh,
certainly.
sure.
But just for like, I don't know. I'm not complaining. It's like
Is
Yeah,
it
I don't know.
is it
It's not like-
unfortunate that this was supposed to originally be a sequel to Twilight Princess? Yeah, sure. It sucks that never happened.
it was.
Yeah. This was supposed to originally be a sequel to Twilight Princess, and then I think it was Miyamoto was like, what if we made it a shooter and it's only level based?
The zapper and you just shoot stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
How
it's
about the
Thomas.
Picross?
I think it's Thomas Game Docs. He has a really good video about this game. You should watch.
Okay. Shout out Thomas Game Docs.
But yeah,
I got
no,
it.
Solid.
I was gonna say, out of everything on this list, the Picross is the one where I'm like, why is this on here?
Blame
Is
Gooey.
this
Picross
really
is
a
fun.
Zelda game?
It is. Are you kidding me?
Is it?
Playing
Uh,
Picross is a good time. You don't like Picross?
I've never played Picross. I've
That's-
seen it. Doesn't interest me.
It's unfortunate. It's a great puzzle
It's
game.
good.
What's the
Nico,
heart,
where would you put it?
Heart of Zelda? Oh, it's a solid D tier.
Wait, it has cool music. It has cool music, like
All I-
original songs.
All I remember is like very somber music, but I don't remember if that's the whole game.
It's like chill,
You know what-
lo-fi Twilight Princess to
Yeah.
Picross too. I don't-
Twilight Princess to study and relax to.
No, to study in Picross too.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. This
If-
is mostly on Nico, I guess.
Picross
You
just
had
seems
me
like
at
a
it.
novelty game. It seems like a novelty game to me, so I think it's fitting to put it with the other novelty games.
With the watch.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
I would
that
agree.
seems.
I would agree.
How is it? How is it as a Picross game though? It might be an S tier Picross game.
As
so
far as Picross
maybe
games go,
we should put it in S tier.
it's an S tier Picross game, 100%.
Let's do. There's a lot of big ones left.
Well, of course.
Well, yeah, that's what we've been trying to do.
Why don't we do not a big one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do Battle Quest.
You're saying Battle Quest is sorry. I know.
All right. Battle
Why don't-
Quest isn't its own game.
That's
It's a
fair.
mode.
No, it's a
in
game within a game.
It is.
So F tier. It's not a game.
To be honest,
that's fair.
I think-
actually.
out of all of the spin-offs on this list, I think it's my favorite. I think Battle Quest is super fun. Like crazy fun.
So
Like
you
I have more
want-
fun playing Battle Quest.
You want me to put Battle Quest in?
I don't have
B
fun
tier?
playing it.
You don't have fun playing Battle Quest?
Every time I play it, I'm like, what's going on? I don't know.
Oh man.
I just
It's such a
every
fun
time I play
co-op
it-
thing because like the arrow person has to cover and it's like it uses the mechanics of the stuff really well. This is like one of the only great uses of the Wii U gamepad in gaming. Like
I can think of there's so many better games that are in this package than Battle Quest. I
I
think.
don't know. It's-
The Donkey
Among the
Kong.
best
I
for
played the
me.
Donkey Kong
Mario
game all the
Chase.
I mean, it's not fair to compare them to the rest because Nintendo Land is just a fantastic game. They're all
Yeah.
great.
time. Where's our Switch Nintendo? Give us another Nintendo Land on the Switch, not a remake. Give us a sequel.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Every time I play it, I'm sort of just like ready to be done. I just
Well,
I,
that
it
sounds
doesn't
like a
work for
GUI
me.
problem.
Wow.
So we're
Well,
putting this in S tier, right? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm very the opposite. Every time I play it, I'm like, let's go, let's keep going. And like
Well-
I remember sitting down with a buddy of mine and we just like decided one afternoon we were like, let's do this, let's beat this. And we were trying so hard to do it on the hard mode and stuff, and like you get to the end and you fight Ganon and it's like I don't know. Very cool to me. I think it's a
Maybe
super fun co-op experience.
Maybe I just haven't had the right setting. You know what I mean? That makes a big difference. But
You got to play with Nico and me.
Yeah.
okay.
Then it'll be S tier.
Well, we might have a chance, right, this year.
Well, you know
So-
what? We'll play it here at the apartment during the marathon. We'll find a little free time to sneak away. We'll play it on my Wii U. Let's do it.
Yeah, a little extracurricular Zelda playing.
Yeah.
We'll,
What would
we'll
you want to
stream
put?
it.
Where would you put it, Corey? You
Uh,
think up in B?
No, I put
To
it
me,
in
it's
C.
Good.
All
I
right.
put it in C.
To me, it's not even a full game. It's more of a novelty.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like a watch level game. But
There's a
I
lot to
I put it at
though.
the top of C tier.
I will say there is a lot to Battle Quest.
Yeah.
all right, I strongly disagree.
Well,
Wow.
But I also don't want to move it because I don't care.
This is the most contentious game on this list. Battle Quest. Who would have thought?
To me, it's not even on the list. It's not even a game. It's not there.
it's not there.
Okay.
Is it
I
me?
guess Nico. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, we're gonna hop into some heavy hitters.
Okay. It's
Okay.
about time.
Phantom Hourglass. Are you ready? Okay.
You know what? DS roundup, even though they're not the same. If we're putting oracles together, we got to put these games together.
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
That's cool.
Okay. So I really enjoy these games. My problem is that I have big hands and I hate playing with the stylus. It literally physically pains me. And that is my biggest gripe with these games, because other than that, I think the games are charming. It's unfortunate that they were made on a system that didn't really look great. The DS isn't very nice to Wind Waker Link graphics, I guess. He looks very sad. The stories are
Sadly.
cute. The gameplay is fun. But it just kind of hurts after a while, you know? You really got to play like on a table or something, set down, and I don't know, you got to stretch. I don't know. It's not great. But
So would you put Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass in the same tier?
I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion. I actually think I like Phantom Hourglass better than Spirit Tracks.
Yes. 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 We're beating
Guys.
Corey. Ugh,
Doesn't make any sense.
The only reason is that I
makes
played
all
it
the
more.
sense.
I think I've played Spirit Tracks twice. I played Phantom Hourglass like 10 times. I don't know.
I played them initially back to back, and Phantom Hourglass. I was playing a lot on commuting on the train, and I zipped through it, and I was like, that was a cute little game. Phantom Spirit Tracks, same thing. Picked up right after. Got about halfway through, and I was like, this is a slog. To me, it's a slog. And then when I recently replayed it for my other ranking I did, I barely completed it. It was a slog. I don't even like the game. I think there's a lot I do like about it that's in there, but as an overall game, I just don't like it. I could barely finish it. It's like barely finishable for me. I hate having to blow into it the whole time. I hate the trains.
That sucks. I'm not a fan of the train driving. I will say though, there are some parts of Spirit Tracks that are truly wonderful. Like
there are parts of it that are better than Phantom Hourglass.
Oh, for sure,
for sure.
I think
better story, music, art design.
The characters are like more lovable.
As a game,
every aspect of Spirit Tracks is better than Phantom Hourglass. Like literally,
you like blowing into that thing to make the little.
You blow into it in Phantom Hourglass too. You got to do a bunch of mics. You need to like say stuff into it in Phantom Hourglass.
Like twice in the whole game.
Yeah,
it's
you're not
twice
you're not
in the
blowing
game,
on
and
a
it's
pan
like
flute.
you do it twice, and it's like, oh, that's like that's cute, I guess. And then in Spirit Tracks, they're like, what if we made that one of the main mechanics of the game? It's the worst.
I don't know. It's only frustrating if it's not working for you. And if you have that's a huge problem. I'm not going to deny that. But if your mic is working fine, I think it's totally fine.
Sure.
I think it's cool.
I played it
super
at the
gimmicky,
time,
but
I played it at the time on a regular DS, and it was not old. And then I played it recently on one that was broken, and then one that wasn't, and it's not been fun on all levels. On a new one, on an old one.
Oh man,
I don't like. For me, I wouldn't say it's an awful game, but for me, it's D tier is what I would say.
Oh my god,
barely could finish it.
I'll say this.
Both times, barely finished.
I'll say this. I think the main reason I think Phantom Hourglass is better than Spirit Tracks is because of like a memory thing. Like personal connection to the game. Maybe Spirit Tracks is just as good. I will say this moment.
Okay.
You know the moment where you have to copy the map from the wall in Phantom Hourglass to your map, and the way you do it is by closing the DS.
Yeah.
And reopening it. So I played this game. I got it from the library when I was a kid. Like I remember getting it from the library, and it was the day I had to return it, and it was on hold, so I couldn't like renew it. And I was sad, because I wanted to keep playing. And I was so frustrated that I couldn't figure this puzzle out that I slammed my DS closed and I set it aside. And then like 3 hours later, I went and I grabbed it to keep playing. And I opened it and they're like, you solved the puzzle! And I was so confused as a kid. I was like, how did I solve the puzzle? What did I do? But honestly, I loved Phantom Hourglass. But Spirit Tracks, I just never really got it. I don't know.
Okay, so my proposition. This is clearly a losing battle for me, but I feel like I gotta say my piece because, like,
you gotta honor the game. Yeah,
I would have said Spirit Tracks is in B tier, Phantom Hourglass is in C tier. I'm not super strong on either of them. I don't super dislike either of them. I'm totally fine playing on the DS. Even the mechanics of the blowing, that stuff really doesn't bother me unless the DS isn't working right.
Sure.
But I think Phantom Hourglass, in essence, is... First of all, there's elements of it that are super calling back and leaning way too much into that dream game thing, which, like, another game does way better. And then the bigger fault for it is that it's literally Wind Waker light. Everything about it, from the aesthetic to the music to the characters to the world to the travel mechanic, is Wind Waker, but so much worse.
I don't know. Can you
people complain about Wind Waker
in the Wind Waker?
Yeah, but it's not even an upgrade. We've talked about that. It's completely superficial. And
it looks cool.
People complain in Wind Waker about traveling the Great Sea. They're like, oh, sailing is boring or whatever. But at least when you're sailing, you have free reign of like there's you can see something off in the distance and control yourself that way, and you can move about and you can jump and you can rotate the camera, and then there's enemies you can run over, you can
That's
run
true.
into the barrels and stuff. In
I'm not
Phantom
arguing
Hourglass,
against
you just
sailing
Yeah,
draw.
I'm
either.
not arguing about Wind Waker here.
No, but in Phantom Hourglass, it's the same thing, but you just draw a line and then wait,
Yeah, what if
and
those
that
lines were
sucks.
set
No,
in
you
place
click
and
on
you
Even
stuff.
couldn't move them and you had to only move on those lines and other things came in that line and then they hit you and then you died? That's Spirit Tracks.
going back to Spirit Tracks, you have autonomy in it. You can choose your path and then switch the way that the things are going. There's way more in the overworld for you to interact with, like the rocks and the rabbits and the enemies that you can shoot. You can do a bunch of fun Easter egg stuff with the train whistle, like you can make the seagulls follow you and you can open up gates and stuff, and you can switch which track you're going to go on. I think everything in Spirit Tracks that is similar in Phantom Hourglass is better. I think the world is better. I think the story's better. I think the dungeons are better. I think the bosses are way better. I think the soundtrack is leagues better.
Okay, the soundtrack is
I
definitely
think the
better.
items are better, and that's saying something because Phantom Hourglass
yeah.
has good items. Spirit Tracks has the whip, and it's used incredibly well.
I don't really like the whip.
It also has the sand rod, which is fantastic.
All right.
We do like the sand rod.
These are
I
great
wasn't even
items. These are
impressed with the
some of the
sand
best
rod
items in
as
the
much.
series.
Yeah.
And
I
the
don't know, the thing you're
bosses. We
saying about
talked.
the overworld, for me, it's like the overworld in Phantom Hourglass is like fine, and I'm like, yeah, it could be better. But then
You
like
just sit there. You don't do anything.
Spirit Tracks is not an upgrade to me because I like really don't like navigating the world. It's like a chore. I would honestly take like chilling, and that's not even what all Phantom Hourglass is. There's a little bit going on. It's not that interesting, but I would take that over how annoying it is for getting from place to place in Spirit Tracks. That was the biggest
I don't
thing in
get
the
that.
outside the dungeons was like I just want to get to where I didn't explore the world because I hated getting around the world. So they'd be like, "Oh, there's this thing you can go off and do here, side quest." I'm like, "Nope, chugging on by, not interested."
That doesn't. That makes no sense to me because it's literally the same mechanic but upgraded. It's the same mechanic but more things to do around you.
It's this
I
to
think
me.
I
It's the
just
same mechanic but more obnoxious.
I really hated the train travel. I really did.
Yeah, but if we can, I guess we can compromise
All right.
and say they're in the same. But for me, they're not. It's not even close. Like Phantom Hourglass, I think
Well,
is like that's a really fun, cute game, and Spirit Tracks is like
I thought this
I
was going
don't
to be a quick one.
know, no way.
I know, right? So where are we putting them then?
I don't know.
Both in C.
Guess so. Yeah, I probably would have put Phantom Hourglass in B
I
and
think
Spirit
All right.
Tracks in
Well, I
D.
I think both
I'm
of them in
talking Phantom
C.
Hourglass down to D personally. So
I think both of them in C is pretty
This is the
median.
ultimate stalemate.
I
It
think that's
really
the best
is.
compromise because I don't think we're gonna. We just inherently disagree about these two very similar games.
Apparently.
It's okay. There's gonna be people mad at. Well, probably more me. I think it's common that Spirit Tracks is regarded higher. But I don't know. I just never click when I just yeah, it doesn't work for me.
The music is better though. That's
Oh yeah.
Music is way better.
way better.
Way better. I would agree with that. I think it's way better. Yeah.
All right, Goo. What is your selection?
Is it me?
Yeah.
Oh geez. Let's do. They're also different, but let's do the Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures.
Yeah. Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures. Oh, come on. There you go.
I really didn't. Well, I haven't played Four Swords much with four people, other than like one time I was really tired. Playing with two players was not very fun. So Four Swords to me is, it not a fun game. I don't know if you think that is the same, but I think Four Swords Adventures is a little bit more fun.
I have very
I think-
little experience with Four Swords and a little bit more with Adventures.
Four Swords Adventures is a fun game, even if you're playing solo, I think. and I don't think Four Swords is very fun either way.
Oh.
It's Four Swords. If we're talking about like main series releases, what Nintendo considers the main line Zelda games, Four Swords is far and away my least favorite.
Okay.
Really?
I think
Okay.
we're in
Like,
agreement.
not even close.
This is nice. This is easy. This is good.
Yeah.
All right. Where's this guy going?
D.
Yeah, it's a D.
I'd say it's a slog, and I barely wanted to finish it. And I'm
Cool.
starting to look at F tier, and we might have to put some things there. And then I think Four Swords Adventures, pretty fun party game. For a little bit,
It's
you don't
fun
have
at
to
the
play through the
marathon.
whole thing.
Yeah.
I played through it 2-player in chunks, and it was fun. And single player is okay. They all kind of compromise in their own versions. I think they do a decent job towing the line. But I think I have come around to with Corey's opinion on Triforce Heroes that I think it excels at doing the multiplayer more so than anything else. But I put it in C.
What do you think, Corey?
Yeah.
Low C. Or
I think that's fair. I think I would also put it in C. Like it's I think it's a similar thing where I was playing through it and there were certain things that were catching my eye and being like, wow, this is really unique and cool, or wow, that's a really great puzzle. But just inherently the way that the game is structured is just not how I prefer to play Zelda games.
I think it's a really funny game to watch. I really like watching people play it. And especially the mechanic of like the on screen and then on the Game Boy, like going between the screens is like kind of a fun little concept, but I don't know. It's like, it's cool, I guess. All right,
that was very easy.
Easy.
Yeah.
I think the soundtrack is better in
You son of a
Four Swords Adventures actually does kind of have a cool soundtrack.
Okay. So let's next do the first sequel in the series, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
The first sequel. Gosh, this is like with the lay of games here, this is so strange to do.
We can tweak things if we need to.
I think this is a pretty good game. Like I think we've talked a lot about it overall, but like I people default to like this being so awful, but I actually think it's relatively like a pretty fun game.
Super cool game
with like with some flaws or whatever, but I don't think some of the criticisms people have are fair. But I don't know how high it cracks compared to I don't know some of our other ones.
My suggestion, I think, would be C tier. Unless you guys feel super strongly about it, then maybe I would be okay with B tier. But I feel like it's a similar thing. It's not similar at all to the CDI games, but I almost feel similarly about it. But even more so with Adventure of Link, where it's like there's a super good game in there. Like there's an amazing game in there, and the only thing that holds it back, I think, are almost exclusively like age limitations or restrictions because of what the time that it came out. I think this is the game out of all games in the series that could use a remake the most. Or like a spiritual successor of some sort.
A sequel. Zelda 3. They should make a game called Zelda 3.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
I think we talked about this in a mailbag maybe, but I think like this style of game, but like throwing a little bit of Hollow Knight in there,
Yeah, well that's the thing, is that like I think it would have been perfect if like the overworld travel is similar, but it's more like a traditional Zelda game where it's kind of like top down and you can fight enemies like that, or you can enter combat or whatever, and you can go into towns and do stuff, and then it's like the towns and the dungeons are like Metroidvania style levels.
Yes.
Like keep the side-scrolling thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm with you.
I think overall there are so many things that could be better with this. I actually would personally put it in B. Cuz it's challenging, and mostly because it's just an older game. But I really like it, and I don't think it deserves almost any of the hate that it gets.
Yeah. I'm kind of mixed.
Be okay putting it in B.
Yeah. I think we should.
Yeah.
I like it more than some of the games in B. I won't say which, but I do. I genuinely have fun this is one. It's not like, I don't know. It's not as extreme as some other ones, but every time I do play it, I find myself like appreciating a different aspect of it. So
it's also got some really sick cover art.
Sick cover art,
which I know we've talked about before.
Soundtrack, flawless soundtrack.
Oh, great soundtrack.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Exclusively bangers. Not one bad song on that soundtrack.
It's a really good soundtrack.
Of like 8 songs.
It's true.
Well, it's my turn, right?
No, that was you.
I did Zelda too.
Oh, that was you? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys, I'm gonna strike a chord with Gooey here. Let's grab the Link's Awakenings.
Oh, baby.
The Link's Awakenings.
Because
I'm really hoping we can walk out of this discussion we're about to do with our first S tier.
Okay.
I almost don't care what version, but if we could get one of these into S tier, and Corey, I know we've had our issues, but we could work something out here, man.
Hey, honestly, this, out of all the ones we've talked about so far, I think this is easily the one I would consider the most for S tier. I love this game.
Okay, yeah, baby.
So,
but you know what though? I think we differ on which one you would want to put in S tier.
I think
but I don't
prefer the DX, and I prefer the Switch remake.
But I want to, bury the hatchet.
Okay, so let me be the mediator here. I'm
still mad.
Corey, pardon me, 5-year-old Corey.
No.
Corey, you think that the Switch version is the best of the 3?
I do.
Okay, and Gooey, you think that DX is the best, correct?
I think DX, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Game Boy version, the one that started it all.
Look, the Game Boy version's awesome too. I played through it recently. Okay, I got McKenna the thing for Christmas, that Game Watch thing.
Yes.
And while I was visiting her family for Christmas, I beat the whole thing.
Jesus.
I played. I don't even know if McKenna has played it, but
I don't even want to spend time with her family. I just want to play Link's Awakening.
No,
Goo's just off in the corner, like.
The difference between that and DX for me, it's not even that big. In fact, there's a couple things added. The color does a lot for it, but I also find the original pea green version charming. So
besides the color dungeon and obviously like a color palette change, what's the biggest difference? Is that it?
There's the photographs, which aren't in the remake.
Okay, that's only in DX.
Mm-hmm.
And
because it's the Game Boy printer it's supposed to be compatible with.
Yeah, and the Game Boy printer.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So it's a little better, but
cool.
for me, like the color dungeon is like a nice little thing, but like the overall game itself is kind of the same.
Okay,
I don't know. We might be splitting hairs, but for me, I prefer those over it, but it's like I appreciate the remake a lot. So it's not even like one where I'm like,
I will personally say, I'm trying to think back, and I honestly don't know if I've played the one on the Game Boy, the original. I honestly think I've only ever played DX and the remake.
Well, you've pretty much experienced it then.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not super different.
I would personally say I like the remake more, but I'm a sucker for a remake. I'll be honest. And I think it's so cute, and I love the music, and I love the designs of everything, and it's so well done, and it made people play a game that deserved more love.
Yeah, well, that's a thing that's worth pointing out too. Is like I feel like the remake does keep intact a lot of the world and level design,
that opening,
and stuff like that.
The opening and closing sequences on the Switch.
Amazing.
There's definitely distinct differences, but I do think one thing I like about it is it does show off like what's good still about the original and there is some quality of life changes. There's some things I don't like as much or whatever, but overall, like it's not a thing that like I don't hate this game. In fact, I have replayed it. I love it.
I
For
have an idea.
Go for it.
What if I put both DX and the remake in S tier
Okay,
and the original
Corey.
in A tier?
Sure. You could do whatever.
I mean, honestly, I don't feel like the DX and the original are that different. So it honestly just depends, Nico, which ones you want to put in S tier and A tier. Because
Well, I've never played
if
the
we're
original, so I can't really speak to that.
Yeah.
in my mind, I compare it to the DX one. The stuff that's added in the DX version doesn't differentiate
Okay.
that much in my eyes from the original. But like, if we decide that DX is going in S tier and the remake is going in S tier, I'd be fine also putting the original in S tier.
So,
If you guys want to do
Gooey,
that, I think
you were
the
sitting
the
here hoping and praying that
Fine
we
with
could
me.
get one Link's Awakening in S tier, and I think we're
Well,
about to walk away with
I just
3.
feel spoiled. I feel a little spoiled if we do
I
that.
mean, so the thing that I was gonna say, and I've always liked Link's Awakening ever since I first played. I think I first played the DX version, and I was like, "This is dope. This was a great Zelda game.
Yeah.
Concise, cool. I love what it's going for." But the thing that I really have come to appreciate about this game is a lot of the thematic elements that we've discussed in relating to the dream world and the whole driving theme of the game, and not only how that is reflected in the story but also in like the music and the art style
Yes.
and stuff. And I think this is one of the only instances like ever, maybe even in gaming, where the remake has made me appreciate the original even more, as opposed to being like,
Okay.
this remake is now going to be my de facto version. Even though it probably is, I'm probably going to play it a lot more than the DX version. But the way that they bring those themes through in the soundtrack and the art style and everything about the remake makes me be like, oh, they were going for this stuff in the original. I just didn't see it as much.
Yeah.
And I think that might be because of the limitations. Because I
Oh,
think
sure.
back then the focus, at least the way it came across, I think it felt more like, hey, this is a fun pocket Zelda adventure game, because it was the first Game Boy Zelda. And now that we've gotten the remake and they've gone so hard on all that cool stuff that we've talked about, that makes me be like, oh, so much of that stuff was there in the original.
Yeah. I'll
Which I think that's a very impressive thing for a remake to do, which is why I would have said S tier for the remake and A tier for the other ones. But if you want to go S tier for all three, I'm fine with that.
I will say, out of all
yeah,
the remakes in Zelda, this is the only one that I consider like a full remake. You know, whereas the others are like
It's like
mostly
it's
remasters.
a reimagining.
Yeah,
Sure.
because like
Yeah.
sure, there's
Yeah.
changes between like the 3D versions of Ocarina and Majora, and the HD versions of some of these games are pretty different. Sure, but like this one is they took the idea of the game and they're like, let's try it again. Let's just do
Yeah.
a different version of it. And it's the most different. And I remember
Yeah.
when they announced this, I was like, what? That's awesome. I was so excited, you know?
When they first revealed this and it was just called Link's Awakening, everyone was like, why not Link's Reawakening? Why not Link's Awakening HD? Why not Link's Awakening whatever? And I feel like now it makes so much sense, because it's like, no, this is that game. This
Yeah.
is that game that came out, but just
It's for a new
new
generation.
again. It's
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
This is what this game would have been if it just came out for the first time now.
Yeah. I'm glad they did that. Gooey, what were you gonna say about
Oh, just in
having
terms
this
of
case?
appreciating one or the other more. I think I've said it a lot, but it does it does show off some things that are cool about the original, and kind of you can go back and appreciate it. But it's kind of meta in itself, because it's like part of the game is about remembering your past experiences and like sort of being uh comforted in certain ways or whatever by
Mhm.
nostalgia, you know. So I always, for me, like nostalgia is almost like
Oh, sure.
part of the game. So like I always go back to the original one that
Yeah,
I
the
played.
nostalgia
You know what I
ghost.
mean? The nostalgic ghost. He's the main
Of
character of the game.
course.
But no,
Yeah.
just even like you're seeing characters from other games you've played. Like you're
Yeah.
supposed to sort of be like experiencing the same thing as Link, as like Link seeing characters he knows, but you're also seeing like
Mario characters,
Mario's,
returning people.
and it's
Yeah.
like it gets a little meta in itself. So yeah, I just prefer the original, but that's because that's the one that I connected with. Sounds
Cool.
good.
I'm fine keeping
We
them
got an S tier.
right there.
Link's Awakening, all forms S tier.
It's a beautiful game. I actually got just choked up a little bit listening to Gooey talk about it because it is
Oh,
a very good game. Good memories.
okay.
All right, Goo. I'm probably
It's
gonna
me?
cry later. I'm thinking about the rest of these games, and we're probably gonna get a little emotional. Oh,
Let's
no.
get Legend of Zelda on there.
Oh,
Um,
the one that started it all.
I think it's a great game. I think it's definitely better than Adventure of Link.
Mhm.
It has, I think, significantly less like sort of like flaws. I think it holds up a lot better.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more timeless. It kicked it all off. It's another one where certain things that people complain about the game are things that I like about the game. I love this game. I don't know. I don't know if you guys would go any higher, but I think it's a cut above Adventure of Link by a tier.
So
I
you're
don't
thinking-
know. Just because of all the games that we have left,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
We can adjust too. We can shift
Like-
some things down.
well, but that's the thing is like I agree that it's better than Zelda 2, but I don't think it's on the same level as the A tier games. And I don't think Link's Awakening is on the same level as the C tier games.
Adventure of Link, you mean?
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Okay. Is there particular C tier games you're thinking? Well, yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's what I mean. I think Zelda
I think-
2
I think it could go. I think Adventure of Link could go in C tier. I don't know, like high C. That's what I was saying before. But if
Okay.
you don't think so,
Well, that is one. Didn't we
they're different games for sure. I just
yeah.
and we've put
I
some
think
that
I think that would make a little bit more sense to me having the original Zelda in B and Zelda 2 in C tier.
yeah, because that
If
makes
we
more sense.
agree
Zelda
that
2
they're not there's a sizable amount of issues with it.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
it's a solid idea and like pretty fun game, but definitely a lot of flaws. I think
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda should be higher, but I get why that's not going to happen. But I think if we put it here like low B or something like that, I see it as sort of a good measuring stick sort of game. Is there anything anyone else wants to say about it? Like a lot of I just
Well,
sort of
We've talked
was just
about
gonna
this game
say,
so
like-
much.
Zelda
yeah.
1 has been growing on me, and more so in recent years, and it hasn't stopped growing on me. I think if I continue to play it, maybe I could see it up there at some point. But for right now, it's like I think B tier's a solid spot.
Yeah. Has opposite effect as some games where the more I play it, the more I like it. It's become a comfort game for me. That's the
Mhm.
thing I point out a lot. It's really easy to just throw on and start playing. I love that. And I like that we're seeing a lot of games now kind of go back to there's certain things in this game that have actually been lost even in the Zelda series along the way, and I think Zelda's tried to recapture some of that, and I think other games
Mhm.
are trying to recapture that, and I think that's what's great about it. I think it's not a hidden gem because it's one of the most popular NES games of all time, but I think as
Mhm.
more people can play it, there's a lot more to be appreciated about it. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it should get a good rating.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say for the next one, let's do A Link to the Past.
Oh baby,
That's Ocarina
that's
of Time.
another hot one.
That's Ocarina of Time.
There we go.
Well, the box art, it's so
Yeah,
distinct.
similar box arts, right? Weird.
These classic box arts that are so beautiful and perfect.
Go watch our other video about box art, okay?
I think this would be my first pitch for another S tier
Okay.
Zelda game.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah,
I
it's
don't
awesome.
think any of us are going to disagree with that.
All right, cool. That's it. Put it in. Let's go.
Honestly, it's not my favorite Zelda game. I rarely put it in my top 5, but I think it is an S tier game because of what it did.
I mean,
for the
so much
series.
of what Zelda is owed
Yep.
completely to A Link to the Past.
Yup.
Mhm.
Did I grab the? Okay, I did. I thought I grabbed Ocarina of Time again.
And I also think it's not.
Especially the box art. It created the logo.
Oh, I don't want to talk about this again.
No, yeah, no.
I also think it's not a coincidence that this game, among some other Zelda games like Ocarina of Time, is a Zelda game that is still relevant today through the means of like randomizers and crazy stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, and like people doing speed runs. The speedrunning community around it is very big. Like, this is a game that I think they really caught lightning in a bottle with this game, and it's just I don't know. It's hard to explain without going super in depth about the way that the world unlocks and the way that the story is told, and I think
that's what I like about it and The Legend of Zelda. Is like, it's not like the way you progress through it. It's not this perfect like, here's the first part, here's the second part, here's the third part. It's interweaving stuff that all the Zelda games have, but it's so much more distinct here, and that can lead to certainly some people being turned off, but it works for me a lot. Like, having this world that's like sort of like, what's going on here, and it has the right amount too, because when you get into the dark world, they number the dungeons, but you can do those in any order, and you can explore the whole world pretty much right away until you find out there's another world. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Everything is just so well balanced. It's such a well balanced game. It's so well rounded.
Yeah.
All the way through. Like, everything about it is super solid. I don't think there's anything at all about this game that I think is weak.
I will say, I'll say this. If you're new to the Zelda series and you've only really played modern video games, play a few Zelda games before you play A Link to the Past. Otherwise you might get frustrated. if you're like,
it can be difficult.
Yeah.
It is just like, I think if you just like, people come to appreciate different things, because like I read our Discord all the time. I usually don't get involved much because I just feel like sort of on a different wavelength with certain people, you know what I mean? And I see people who are newer to the series talk about some of these old games, and it's mind-boggling to me, because I think like they're just incredible classics, and it's like, it's not as good as, I don't know, like another game I think might be mediocre or whatever, and I'm like, this is so clearly a classic and like perfect, you know what I mean?
See, I think the main thing is that I have my friend Lindsay. She her first Zelda game was Breath of the Wild, and she wanted to play more Zelda games. And
obviously you go in chronological order. You start with The Legend of Zelda,
right? Oh God! But so her community suggested Link to the Past to be her second Zelda game. So jumping from Breath of the Wild as your first ever Zelda game, when you've only really been playing modern video games, jumping back to A Link to the Past, she didn't like it. And I get it, because it's confusing, it's different, it's hard, especially compared to Breath of the Wild. And it's just like, I get that it's frustrating, but having played it, like hiding under my friend's bed on his little CRT at like our sleepovers, like, oh, that was the best. This is the first Zelda game I ever played.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know what a Zelda was, but this was the first Zelda game I ever played, and it was so interesting and cool and difficult, and I didn't know what was happening, but it was fun. It has the 4 pillars, it has Wead, it's got it all.
For me, it's not even it's not even nostalgia, because I played it as a kid. It was one of the first ones I played, but I didn't do much, and I didn't have a Super Nintendo. And it wasn't until I was like 20 years old that I beat it for the first time, and I immediately was like, "Oh, I get it.
Yep.
It's awesome." Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I had the
I had
similar
the
experience with the NES games where not as much, but when I first beat those two, I felt like I'm the freaking champion of the
Yeah.
world right now.
this I actually had I grew up with the Game Boy Advance port of it, the Game Boy Advance remaster
Oh,
of it.
okay.
And I
Hmm.
had the accompanying strategy guide,
Mhm.
and this actually it wasn't the first Zelda game I played, but it was the first one I ever completed by myself. And I remember
Oh,
being like, "Holy crap.
which
How did I do
actually
that?"
that version's on our list, so I think we need to boost it up to S tier, right? Four
Is it?
Swords
I would
Adventures
put it in
back
S
in.
tier. I think it's dope. Oh, not it's
Is it
accompanied with
technically? Yeah.
I'm just gonna count it as four swords.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Okay. Okay.
just four swords.
Just for this
It's
Yeah.
for
one
our
time, we'll do
list.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish they
right.
weren't bundled together.
I wish they weren't associated. Okay. All
All
right.
right.
I think Nico, did you pick that or?
That was mine, right? No. Who chose that?
That was me.
Okay.
Okay, Nico.
Okay.
How are we on time? We good on time?
Yeah, we got time.
All right, we got time.
It's a long episode. We told him it'd be a long episode.
Buckle up.
Let's grab Age of Calamity.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious because I was the only one really fighting for Hyrule Warriors because I'm the only one that really played them, like regularly. But I'm curious about your guys' thoughts on Age of Calamity.
It's not much different than Hyrule Warriors, other than I actually did finish it more because I had a reason to.
Mhm.
But when I was done with it, I was like, I'm kind of ready to be done, but I wasn't like upset, like kind of how Corey was. The story intrigued me, but it's that type of, everyone kind of loved it, and I thought it was similar to the original one in that it felt like a fanfic and like kind of
That's what it
silly,
is, yeah.
but that's fine. Like I think that's fine and that's fun, but I think a lot of people are like, the story is everything Breath of the Wild wishes it could be, and I was like, I think Nico, you and I were talking about this
What?
earlier off mic, but it's like I think some people just like flashy cutscenes.
Yeah.
Not to
To be fair,
sorry, not to.
the cutscenes in this game
They're cool.
had me sobbing. Like I was literally
popped.
sobbing.
Okay, to me it had some moments where it was like it sort of felt to me like so, which I go kind of nuts for these sometimes, but like a big silly movie, like an Avengers movie where it's like all this stuff's happening on and there's all these
Yeah,
cool moments
yeah.
and like it does lead to this big epic thing, but to me it's not a story that sticks out. It felt
Sure.
it's a little bit more like fan service. For me, I would keep it in the same tier almost because I don't know.
Yeah, where do we
I didn't
go?
love it that much more. But if
Okay,
you want to
well-
go higher, I don't know.
What do you think, Corey?
So I think I liked this handedly much more than the original Hyrule Warriors. I think the association with Breath of the Wild, while unfortunately ended up being a huge letdown story-wise, because they basically lied in the marketing of this game. I think the way that you could play as the champions and the new champions, I think not only was that more fun and more cool, but I do think it changed the gameplay enough from the original where it felt a lot more fresh.
Yes.
And I also liked the system of it more than the original, and it felt a lot more like a game I would like. But that being said, it's still that same style of game, so it just doesn't reach Zelda game
Sure.
level for me. Like I kind of instantly put it below most Zelda games because it's just not the same kind of gameplay.
That's fair.
And I'm looking at this tier list right now, and I think, like, I want to put it above Hyrule Warriors Deluxe, but I don't want to put it in B. So I'm kind of hoping, Nico, I don't know how you feel about this. I kind of want to put Age of Calamity in C and knock the
Ooh.
Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition down to D.
Ooh.
Okay. I am cool with this. What I would personally like to do is I'm going to throw this guy here. We're going to pop Definitive Edition down to D. And we're going to pop these guys down to F.
Wow.
Down to F.
Wow.
Because I cannot stand having them be on the same level as Definitive Edition.
Feels harsh.
It is. You know what? Life is harsh, Goo.
Okay. F is
Get
also
used
for
to it.
F is for fun too. We also
F
said.
is for fun. These games are fun.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Hyrule
That's
Warriors
fine.
fans getting angry
I
right
will
now.
say though, Age of Calamity, I would personally probably put it in like an A tier, but for like the sake of knowing how this tier works, C makes a lot of sense to me.
Look, I'm sorry too. I don't mean to say if you like this story, you just like cutscenes. I'm sorry I said that. I just that's
If you would like to cancel
I'm so
Gooey
sorry.
hates Age of Calamity fans.
in the comment, get in the comments, cancel him
That
now.
was just I had this knee-jerk reaction to seeing people say it was better than Breath of the Wild. I was like,
Yeah,
are you
no,
No,
that's
insane?
that's ridiculous.
exactly the same. I had the same reaction. And that actually, I finished the game and I had a more positive end result than the original Hyrule Warriors, but seeing how much everyone loved it made me like it less.
Yeah, I get
I was like,
I was
why?
a little
Why
bit
is
like-
everyone loving it so much?
Yeah. It's because we're starved for Zelda content.
Yeah.
Because Breath of the Wild is 5+ years old. And this was the closest thing we got. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay.
What do you guys want to do?
Let's do a Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, there it is.
Pretty sweet game.
Yeah. This is a good game. I know where I want to put it.
Where do you want to put it?
I want to put it in very high A tier. Personally.
Okay.
I think it could be fought
mean,
into S.
yeah.
It could be fought into B. I don't think you guys want to put it in B though. But
I think
curious your thoughts.
it's probably going to depend on what you guys want to do because this is one of my favorite Zelda games of all time. This is in my top 3. So
Okay.
I would definitely put it in S tier. I actually like this marginally better, but I like it better than A Link to the Past.
Oh, okay.
I think it borrows enough stuff from A Link to the Past that reminds you of it without feeling like a copy paste,
Sure.
but adds a lot of stuff that just would not be able that they wouldn't have been able to do on the SNES. And particularly, I mean like the freedom and the level design is like top tier in the whole series. Like the way they incorporate the merge mechanic with the awesome items, with the fantastic like vertical dungeons and levels, it just blows me away every time I play it.
It's a good
And on top of that,
freaking game.
the soundtrack is fantastic and the story is so good.
I don't think I've ever seen the final cutscene without crying. I cry
Right?
Wow.
every time. I'm a softie, but still.
I do too.
It's too good.
All right. If you want to put an S, let's go. I think it's great. Yeah. It doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't approach that same greatness to me, but there are certainly many things about it that are the best. We talked about it in the collectibles video. Like that's one element that's the best in the series. It's really good at that. I don't know. I like a lot about it, but yeah, it doesn't hit all the same notes for me too. I don't know. I do wish it was a little more original, but I think they do a good. There's a lot of new original ideas in it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
So I think probably would have been better instead of having your friend play A Link to the Past as their second Zelda game, I think A Link Between Worlds would have been perfect because
I agree. I think the only reason she didn't is because she streams them, and it's hard to stream 3DS games.
It incorporates those same ideas, like the doing the dungeons in different orders, and the dual world mechanic, and the way that they incorporate that with puzzles, and the way that the game is so well balanced. Like, I think it borrows so many of those concepts and puts it in a little bit more of an accessible, more modern package.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful game. I love almost everything about it.
Yeah, I think I would have put it in A, right? Well, like where I feel like similar about Ages, where it's like so solid, so good, but it, it's just on the cusp. But if you guys feel that strong, like, it doesn't offend me.
Good. We don't want to offend Goo.
I will freak out. What do we got left?
Was that Yuku that chose that?
Yeah. I didn't even know if it was my pick. It just felt right. It felt like what we should talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we
Well, you got it's
Okay.
all heavy hitters now, and a bunch of bundles. We're not far from the end.
yeah, there's one.
What's just curious? What's that red one? Is that
This
Master
is
Quest?
Master
Or are we
Quest.
including that whole?
That's
This
yeah,
is
we are.
GameCube
Well, it'll
Master
be under
Quest.
Ocarina of Time. Do you want to do Ocarina of Time?
We can do Ocarina of Time.
Let's do Ocarina of Time.
So we have
The different
OG.
versions. I don't know.
Battle Quest, Master Quest,
Well,
and 3D.
the Master Quest is different. It's not mirrored in the GameCube version.
Yeah.
And it does have the original Ocarina of Time.
I mean, Master Quest is worse.
Yes,
but like
agreed.
it has the original in it, so.
But we're specifically talking about
think we're gonna
Master
focus-
Quest.
It's a little
Are
silly.
we-
It almost shouldn't be on the list, but
I
we
was
got
confused
it here.
that it was on the list because, like, if we're just ranking that as Master Quest, I
Sure.
don't know because like it's not even fair because it's the same game, but the dungeons are all mixed up.
Yeah, the dungeons are worse. It's a worse game.
They are. They are.
I mean, it's kind of intentional. It's like Second Quest, where it's a little trolly, you know.
yeah.
Maybe let's just not worry about it. Let's just it's Ocarina of Time with Master Quest.
Whatever it
so
is,
maybe
we're gonna just put it a little bit lower than Ocarina of Time. Maybe the same
because
tier,
then
who knows?
Ocarina of Time 3D has a Master Quest, so it's almost like it's almost like if we had put Collector's Edition on here or something, where it's like a weird,
Yeah.
not its own thing. But we were getting crazy with it. We just wanted a big tier.
Yeah, we want it to be.
Let's just talk about-
wonky.
I think we both like the remake, or we all like the remake better. I take it. So
I do.
I do.
is it S tier?
Yes,
Is it?
I think Ocarina
Okay.
of Time 3D is.
That's where I would put it. I mean, I think
Go for it.
Dude, what if we didn't say anything about the game? What if we just put it in S tier and
Game
moved
sucks. S tier. Let's go.
on? I mean, it's
I-
similar. It brought the series forward, you know.
Yeah.
It maintains a lot of what's great about A Link to the Past,
Sure.
which is something people don't appreciate about A Link to the Past, but also does a lot of new things too. And it introduces so many
For sure.
elements into the series. The world still unfolds in a cool way. It has even more. It borrows a lot from Link's Awakening too, that I think people don't appreciate.
It does.
But yeah, I don't know. I have actually come to like Link's Awakening more. Link to the Past it's starting to pass it, but I do have kind of more personal connection to Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. Personal preference, I probably would have put Ocarina of Time in A, but there's no denying the impact that it had on
Yeah.
the series and gaming as a whole. Like you can't.
It's done so.
So
Can we
if
put
you
the
guys wanna
other
do S tier.
versions. Let's put the other versions in A, low A.
I would agree with putting both versions.
I'm fine with that.
In A. And
The
here's the
remake
thing.
does include the Master Quest.
I
don't know.
think people get so hot and riled up for Ocarina of Time. And
They
I've
get
never
those thick 1-inch rose tinted lenses.
I've never understood that. I think it's a fun game and I really do love it, but when people are like, it's the greatest Zelda game and there's no fighting it, I'm like, listen, I think it's awesome, but it's very basic. It's like a template for other really good Zelda games. But
Well, I mean, so
I
like,
wouldn't go that far.
I kind of think
personally.
it is.
I mean,
That's fair.
I think a good parable. If we fast forward 20 to 25 years, I think people are gonna act the exact same way about Breath of the Wild.
Oh, sure.
Because inevitably more games are gonna come out. There are going to be more games that improve on things that were in Breath of the Wild or are arguably better, and people are going to be like, no, but Breath of the Wild will always be
Yeah,
the
there will
best
be-
because that was their first one. That was their first
Yeah.
crazy eye-opening Zelda moment.
I mean, by
And I
then
think
there will
it's
be
like
like
that with-
2 more Zelda games,
Mm.
and in the next 20 years probably, and
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. No, but I get it.
And then Breath
I,
of the Wild 2 will come out.
I don't think Ocarina of Time is a bad game by any means. I just think it is sort of a bland Zelda game, because
Wow.
compared to
I wouldn't say
The-
bland.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
compared
I
to
agree with
the
that.
style and storytelling of so many others, I think that it
I
It's
personally
become
actually I think it's my favorite 3D Zelda game still. I actually don't, for me personally, well, maybe Majora's Mask, but like in terms of just like the big main, like that are kind of continuing the main like legacy of like, you know what I mean? Majora's Mask is a little strange. For me,
yeah.
like those big ones that are kind of going on that same sort of story and
Mhm.
like borrowing from each other like this does from Link to the Past. I actually don't think like it's improved, but that's kind of a whole different discussion. Like, but like I prefer this to Twilight Princess. I prefer it to
Same.
Skyward Sword. And I think those games certainly add a lot of pomp and circumstance or whatever. But I think as a core game, I still think we talked about the intro to Ocarina of Time. You know what I mean? Like after this,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, all right, now how would you like to spend 3 hours getting to the first dungeon? You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
the one thing. Like they've added a lot of cool stuff, but it's similar to what I was
yeah.
saying about the Legend of Zelda, where I feel like we lost a little bit that I liked to my taste along the way. You know?
Oh, sure.
Well, so going off of Nico's point about how like it's maybe I don't know if I wouldn't describe it as a bland Zelda game, but I think I get the sentiment that you're trying to get at, and that's why I think when talking about Ocarina of Time, more so than most games in the series, I think it's so important to take the context into account when you're talking about how good this game is, because
Oh yeah.
it's become so iconic that it feels standard now.
Yeah.
But at a point,
Mhm.
it was not standard, and it was new and fresh and crazy.
Mhm.
But now people think of Zelda and Ocarina of Time is like, yes, that's the baseline for Zelda. Now look at all these other weirder ones.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
I
why I think
think
it's
it
great.
still is kind of like I think other things have kind of edged in a little bit. Like I think there's a whole like Toon Link style of Zelda,
Yeah,
and then like Breath of the Wild could change the script a little bit. But I think even now, like default, it depends on the age of the person too. But I think if you were to like
Ocarina of Time.
present
Yeah,
Link, yeah, Ocarina of Time, yeah, like yeah, I mean even Twilight Princess Link is meant to kind of look like him, kind
Yeah.
of, you know.
mm-hmm. All right,
All right,
let's keep it going.
I think it's solid. Well, we don't have a ton left. Is it me?
I don't know.
I don't
What do
know.
you want to talk
Yes.
about?
Well, let's do Wind Waker.
Okay. Well, where Nico? Where would you put Wind Waker?
I'm not a fan
'Cause
of
I
the
know
game. I don't think I really like it that much. Okay. I love
because
Wind
I
Waker.
know
So
Corey. I know where Corey would put it.
This
So
game
I kind of want to know Nico's
this
feelings.
game is really bad. No, I freaking love Wind Waker, and admittedly, it is almost 100% nostalgia. Some of my best childhood memories are around
He
this game.
admitted it. F tier. It's
so
not objective.
biased.
Oh man. There is something really magical about Wind Waker for me. Um the exploration, even though it's a big empty sea, people complain about. I love it. People complain about
Yeah,
it
it's not that
looking
bad.
silly or like looking like a
It
cartoon.
looks
I
awesome.
love it. The storytelling, this it's such a good story, and it like it really just like pulls my heartstrings, and everything about this game um makes me happy. I don't know. Wind Waker is a really important game to me just because of like my personal experience with it. And even if I were to just take those experiences aside and just rate it as the game that it is, Wind Waker HD I do prefer. Um, so many quality of life improvements, and it's just more beautiful, and it's on a widescreen. It's a great game. Um, I think Wind Waker HD is an S tier game, and I would put Wind Waker in A. I think there's enough of a difference between the two of them where they could. Um, I could go on for hours, but it's already like a 2 hour show, so I don't want to. I don't want to make it too much longer. So I'll keep it at that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I like Wind Waker a lot. And so I would have it pretty high too. but Corey's gonna say S tier, so I feel like it's probably just got to be an S tier. But
I'm actually on board if you want to do HD and S tier, and then the original one in A tier. I'm okay with
what
that.
about the original and B tier?
I mean, as long as
Actually,
as
no.
the HD is an S tier.
No, it's fine. Actually, put in A, because okay, Wind Waker. My quick thing about it is that it's like, especially as I'm playing it again, but I've played it a lot in the past few years, and it's another one where I said it before, where I appreciate a lot about it. It has these flaws that, but at least at a lot of times, except for a few, with them I see like, oh, I see what they're going for though, and I really appreciate that. And so it doesn't all work out. Like, I think it also, like, it's not exactly the same, but I think about like Legend of Zelda, where like there's a really awesome, wholly unique idea here that like none of the other games have even tried. And so for that, and you guys are strong about it, I'd go with it. But for me, it's not my favorite. I would have probably put it with the ones in A lower or even B, but it's one that I think stands out as a wholly unique, interesting game in the series.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that a lot of things that are great about it came back in Breath of the Wild. I think people will be saying that, or like realizing that as time goes on.
I
That
agree.
yeah.
I've been saying that.
Yeah,
I've been saying that.
I'm with you on that. Then that's why I appreciate it, even though like it doesn't all work for me at all times.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got something left, right? 2 games.
We do. We have 3 games left.
3
Majora's
games.
Mask,
Oh.
Skyward Sword, and Breath of the
Let's
Wild.
do Skyward Sword. I don't know whose turn it is, but we should just do
I think it's your
Skyward
turn.
Sword.
So yeah.
I agree.
Okay. I guess is the HD version better, right? Is it? I don't know. I
liked the HD version better. It's
I
not
think I
too
would
different.
put it a tier better.
Really?
Okay.
I
For
think
the motion controls, or
people complain. Well, the motion controls never bothered me that
Same.
much.
That's the thing I
but,
like about the original.
I love the motion controls.
Well, I love the way that they're I don't like the functionality of them is what bothers so many people, and like that's the only thing I would ever have problems with. But like even then, it's hit or miss. Sometimes they were okay for me, sometimes they weren't. But the way that they're incorporated into the game, I think, is awesome.
Yeah.
With like the puzzles and stuff like that. That's why I appreciate them even adding the buttons only controls, because like even people that I know that were like, oh, I'm only gonna play this motion controls because that's the way it's meant to be played, are like, yeah, no, I do buttons only because like it's just, it feels that much better. It's that much more convenient.
It's also like the
A
first
big thing-
time Nintendo has done a big accessibility thing in a while in a Zelda
Yeah.
game like this. So that was cool.
Another thing that's like not that huge of a deal for people, but I think is like just makes it feel so much better, is that it plays at 60 FPS instead of 30 FPS now. Like it just feels so much smoother to me. I also think the flying feels better. I also think, even though it doesn't go nearly far enough, the fact that you can skip some like lines of text and certain things are faster definitely makes it.
I love this game so much, but getting into it every time, I'm just like, oh, I have to go through the beginning of this game.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
That's what I mean. Like it was a game I played for the first time. I was like, this is cool, and then like the thought of replaying it is always like, what?
Yeah.
It's like just the bit. I don't know. I'm not charmed by the intro, like some may say at the Zelda cast, but I don't like the intro of the game. I like I like a lot of the game. I think the dungeons are cool. I like the motion controls. But going back to what I said about Ocarina of Time, I think we totally lost something along the way with the world and everything. Like it's not, I don't get caught up in it. I think the story is pretty nice, but it's like, I don't know. It feels like sort of like the story, I don't know. It feels like watching a movie or something. You know what I mean? Like
one of the
I'd rather just play I'd rather just play Legend of Zelda and go. I'd rather just get
Yeah.
going. You know, that's a better story to me. I don't know.
One of the biggest things about Legend of Zelda for me is exploration. And the way that this game handles that just makes me, even though I like the stuff that I'm doing, and I can acknowledge that there's really cool puzzles and stuff in the overworld and ways they incorporate stuff, it just makes me kind of want to stop playing.
Yeah.
I like it feels like a hassle a little bit to play sometimes. And even like I think the dungeons are some of the best in the series, but like that's one of the reasons I haven't played this game nearly as much as some other ones because like I can't justify going through so much stuff just to get to the stuff that I do like.
Yeah. It's a
Because
long game too. Just like in
it
general.
is a long game. I would so my suggestion I think would be HD in B tier and then the original in C tier.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think I would originally put them in A and B, but you know what? Honestly, like I'm fine with that. It's a beautiful game, but like I want it to be better, you know, because it's just I don't just
Actually,
want to sit and play it.
now that I'm even looking at it, I'm okay putting them on the same tier. I'm okay having them both in B.
Yeah,
Depends on what you guys wanted. Well, because I'm just looking at Skyward Sword next to all these other games, and I would rather play through Skyward Sword than pretty much all these games in C tier, even if it is long.
you know, I kind of agree.
Sure. I I don't know. It's C is so weird for me. Where there's some games where I'm like definitely would rather play it, and then others where I'm like definitely not because of it's a mixture of all ours. So, but yeah, because for me it's for all the ones in B, I would definitively rather play pretty much all of those. So
Yeah.
but then C it's like weird. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. That works for me. Okay, two more
Okay.
left.
Let's do. I mean,
What do you
I
want to
don't know.
end on?
We should end on
let's.
Breath of the Wild, or
I'm fine
are
with
these
whatever.
both gonna end up in the S tier?
I think so.
I feel like Nico's gonna go ham for. I feel like we all got to get a game in S tier, right? Like one of our.
Let's just. You want to just like kind of do them collectively?
Let's just do them.
Round this up
Let's just do them
because
Let's
they're
just
both
go in
going
order.
towards the top.
Let's just go in order. Majora's Mask, Majora's Mask 3D, and Breath of the Wild.
Well, do we? Are the Majora's Masks on a different tier?
What do you guys think?
I think they are for sure, but like this is another one where this is you guys both love Majora's Mask a lot more than me. I don't think I would even put Majora's Mask 3D in S tier. I'd probably put it in A tier and then Majora's Mask in B tier. But I think you guys are gonna push it for higher, and I'm okay with that because there's no point in arguing with that.
Majora's Mask is a game, like, if someone tells me, like, I don't really like this game, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's weird. You know what I mean?
That's exactly
Like,
how I am, too.
actually,
Yeah.
if someone tells me they hate it, I'm like, okay.
I get it.
But for me, I'm like, it's not, it's just, this is one where I'm totally fine with being like, it's not your cup of tea. For me, I love it. So, that's just to say I sort of get why it's not for some people, I guess.
Yeah.
But even you, Corey, say you really like it. But I think it should go in S.
Yeah.
And as far as the differences, it's one where we've gone on and on about it, but there's some things that I'm like, some things I like better about one, some I like better about the other, some that I'm indifferent about that other people are really passionate about. And so at the end of the day, I don't even know, you know what I mean? Like I don't care at the end of the day. It's just I like Majora's Mask, you know.
Yeah. I'll play it in whatever form.
Honestly, I'm in the camp that pretty much everything in the remake is better than in the original. The only one thing that I don't like is the eyeballs, the giant eyeballs on the bosses. But like even the changes to the bosses I prefer in the 3D version. I like the way the Bomber's Notebook works better.
Yes.
I think the graphics
awesome.
of the 3DS are able to much better convey the art style.
100%.
Because that's something people had a big problem with in Ocarina of Time is that it's sort of brightened up and saturated too many things.
Yeah.
But I think that works so much better for Majora's Mask because there are so many like high contrast, like unnatural
Mhm.
colors and like the purples and magentas, and that stuff is way better on the 3DS in my opinion.
Yeah. I would say overall, I generally like the remake better just because I think I've played it more because it's just more accessible to me because I have a DS and setting up an N64 can be a mess. Of course now you can play it on the Switch. So it's like, I don't know. But I've just played the 3DS version more in my life than I have the original. I hate the swimming mechanic changes. In the 3DS
Mhm.
version.
Mhm.
But overall, the gameplay is like nearly equal to me. I think they're the same tier, in my opinion.
I can
Although
do. We could do
3DS is
S and
prettier.
A as a compromise with Corey, maybe S and
Yeah, I'm
A
good with SNA.
Yeah,
remake
Same as
in S.
same as
And
Wind Waker. The remake goes
yeah,
in S, the original goes in A.
it's fine with me. That's beautiful. But Gooey, I agree very
Cool
much with
beans.
what you said about other people's opinions about Majora's Mask, because so many people will be like, "Oh, I hate Majora's Mask. It's a terrible game," and I'm like, "Okay, I get it. It's my favorite, but yeah, okay."
I
The
like. It's different compared to the other stuff I was saying, where like when I read people's opinions about certain ones, and it's like mind-boggling to me. I'm like, okay, I get the game is old, but it's like it's so perfect. But then Majora's Mask, I'm like, it's an oddball. I get
It
it.
is. I think you just had to get it at the right time.
Majora's
Yeah.
Mask is another game that, similar to Legend of Zelda, I think both of them I played in the span of time when I just wanted to play all the Zelda games.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little bit older, and I played it, and I was like, that was fun. There were some things I didn't like about it as much. It didn't super click with me. And that's also another one where I'm starting to appreciate it more and more the more
Mhm.
that I play it and the more that I sit on it, just like with
Yeah,
Legend of Zelda.
I will say, playing and beating Majora's Mask on the N64 as a kid without any guides was like my biggest feat as a child. That is my proudest moment in my whole life is beating this goddamn game all
Mm.
on my own as a kid.
It's a tough game.
I actually have a super really I'll try and make it really quick, but the first time that I played through Majora's Mask, the first time I played through Majora's Mask is the worst I think I have ever raged in a Zelda game because I wasn't following a guide all the way and I got all the way to the twin mold fight and I did not have any sword upgrades. I didn't
Oh.
have the magic upgrades and I just could not hang on to my magic for long enough
Yeah.
to beat twin mold and I got so angry that like I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm done with this. And I didn't turn it off, but I was actually playing on an emulator. I just activated cheats to give myself infinite everything and then just went through the entire rest of the game like that and I was like, I'm done. I just want to be done with this.
Wow, you
Amazing.
hacked. What a
Yeah.
Amazing.
hacker.
I mean, this is the only Zelda game that, like, the Game Grumps, they just straight up gave up on it. They're like, this is hard, and then they stopped playing
Yeah.
it. And then it took like 2
They had to look up our
years.
guide.
Yeah, they did.
That's true.
And then 2 years later, I think Aaron like got it on an emulator, I think, and replayed up to that point and realized, okay, I gotta like get some upgrades. And it was
Yeah.
in what wait how
Stone Tower.
it was Stone Tower. He got to Gomez.
It was against yeah.
He got
Yep.
to Gomez and then gave up.
Nico's like our official YouTube correspondent. You've mentioned like 3 other YouTube channels. Hopefully they come watch this.
They're all big fans of Triforce Heroes, so
Oh, I'm sure.
Everyone go at them. Tell them to watch this super long tier video.
yes. All right,
All
Alright,
guys.
so
right,
what's
we got
that-
Breath of the Wild. What
Yeah.
is that game?
Yeah, what's that junky game we have left?
Breath of the Wild. Okay, well, that was a great tier list, you
All
guys.
Thanks for watching.
Right there at the bottom. I don't think we don't have to say anything to agree that Breath of the Wild is just an S tier game.
Wait, you put it at the top?
Hey,
I don't know if it's the
I
best.
just
Well, do we agree? Like, I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's
I
S
think
tier.
it's S tier.
Okay.
You kidding me?
Yeah. It's a bold new step forward in the series. And
Yeah, exactly.
It was a
really looking.
breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
just I real quick just say, because I feel like I want to say something about all the games, is that
Yeah.
for me, I I think a lot of people were happy with the series as it is. I did feel like they were running out of, like, I don't know, like they needed something new for it to be, you know.
Yeah.
And not to say they didn't try new things with some of the other games, but fundamentally, like, I feel like there was still a lot of like, all right, guys, like, we need to like take a time out and regroup and like, you know.
Yeah.
And I think this really did reinvigorate the series.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember stuff like a lot of there was a lot of promises people were saying. Like, I remember reading interviews before Skyward Sword came out of like, oh, it's gonna do this new, and this new, and then it did do a lot of unique things, but it, like, I can't remember the specific promises, but I remember it sort of being like, oh, it's gonna be this like world, you're not even gonna know where the dungeons are. It's, you know, and
Yeah.
it didn't really live up to that for me. For how fun it was at the time. And Breath of the Wild really does have that, even with its flaws, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it really felt like it has the wead or whatever the components
it has
we
wead.
talked about.
It has wonder, excitement, adventure, and
Adventure,
discovery. It has all four. I'm engraving them right here.
But I can also totally see a case where this becomes an A tier game. I hope it does. It's a little bit like Wind Waker
agree.
to me, where like I want the follow up to it, and I would have liked
And I
it
hope
sooner.
it's not Phantom Hourglass.
yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
right. If they
imagine
were like,
they announced the
stylus
sequel
game?
is only coming out on the new 3DS.
Actually, what if they're like, we're coming out with a new handheld, the 4DS?
The 4DS. It sprays
Whoa.
you when you're swimming through the ocean.
Scratch and
And
sniff.
it's actually the 40S, and it's got 40 S's on it.
Amazing.
Wow. Well, one thing
riveting
I'd like to point
conversation.
out is, if we're looking at the top tier, there's some great box art in this top tier. And I think that says it all.
There is some great box art. That's correct.
Sure is some. It's unfortunate.
This is a great tier.
There's a lot
I
of
think
gold. We talked
at first it
about
was
that.
like, this works really well. This tier list, I think, expresses our views pretty well.
Yeah.
I was a
agree.
little worried that we were going to have too much in S, but like this makes sense. I agree.
Yeah.
It makes sense, like, because we're looking at the macro or whatever of the whole series and spin-offs, you know. Like, obviously if we had main series games, it'd fluctuate more, but I like how it shows the, you know, it gets into like what spin-offs are actually really fun, you know what I mean? Like what kind of like rise to the moment, you know. And I also think it's fair, because like if we did like, F seems even harsh to me for like Hyrule Warriors, you know what I mean? So like, I really didn't want to have to be putting Adventure of Link or whatever our lower ones in the main series are in F, you know.
Yeah, no.
I think this works.
Yeah.
I like that the biggest argument was over the 2 DS games that we put
I know,
in
right?
C tier.
And they're both in C tier.
I blame Corey. That was all him.
No way. I got super pissed.
Hey,
fact,
if you
I'm
want to
so
fix
mad.
it, we could. If you want to fix it, we could put Spirit
Anyway,
Tracks
this
in
is
B tier.
our
That's fine.
final ranking,
way.
and it will not be
No
changed
way.
at all.
Well, shoot, this was really fun, all things considered. I think this is appropriate for the 1-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary,
happy
you
1 year.
guys. Happy anniversary.
Yeah, this has been a great year. It's like good like monthly get together with you guys. You know, Nico, I don't see you enough, you know.
I know. Jeez. I can't make a
shoot,
sandwich
Riff.
without him just over my shoulder chatting about.
What are you doing?
What you making there?
All right. Yeah, we'll have to do something. Let's do something nice and breezy next time. We'll do a silly one, maybe.
Yes, very breezy. Agreed.
Isn't
I concur.
is September is Labor Day? Isn't September, right?
Oh, okay, we will
I don't
be
know.
Let's do our
Uh,
favorite construction workers.
Our
in
favorite
the-
construction workers.
That's not a bad idea, right?
It's not a bad idea.
I think it is. Anyway.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. I'm sure if you got this far, everyone's got some heated comments. So
Jeez, if you've made it this far
leave-
in the video, oh man.
Hopefully you watched this in multiple settings, because if you didn't, I'm sorry.
I hope he stood
This
up and
is-
stretched.
yeah, this and there's a longer 4-hour version that
No. On our
If you-
Patreon. No, we don't have a Patreon.
the GUI cut.
The gooey cut.
Oh.
All right. Well, thanks
right.
so much, everyone, for watching. What fun. We will see you next month.